listening to Miller and Moulton, exclusively on the Florida Sports Network. And now, here's Mark Miller and David Moulton.
How about if we tag team this, all right?
Tag team it, or you need one out of the bullpen?
So I go top of the morning to you. There you go. Nice. Miller and Moulton on the Florida Sports Network on this final Thursday and our final show of 2021. Hope the year went a little better for you than I think most of us suffering through 2020. Hopefully it did. We'll look back a little bit. We'll look ahead. We have a great show lined up for you. Some of our best regular guests, for one reason or another, are all lined up to be on this final show of 2021.
Which works out well. Seth had an event yesterday. We're not doing a show tomorrow. Bud comes on Thursday. So Seth Everett, Bud Elliott, Pat Kirwan, all on the show today. And Dan Matthews will join us from 680 The Fan in Atlanta to talk about the Dogs as they get ready for Michigan tomorrow. My wife asked me again yesterday, so what are we doing tomorrow? Or what are we doing for New Year's last night, sitting around? So what are we doing for New Year's? I said, I'm watching football from 3:30 until about 11:30.
I'm guessing that answer was not well received.
Well, I didn't say it quite like that.
Right.
Because
right.
I said, remember, honey, I told you the national semifinals are New Year's Eve. I said, so I'm going to watch Alabama and Cincinnati.
Oh, see, I thought you would stop before you said, so I'm going to watch. I thought you were just going to leave it open-ended.
No.
Hoping that she would jump in and go, oh, that's right. We need to watch that.
I mean, it is where this pathetic little thing I call a job comes in handy. Because I say, honey, I kind of have to watch.
Now, see.
I know. Don't go there. You could tape it. We got 4 or 5 days before we do a show.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, there's plenty of ways to miss that Georgia game. Here's the thing. I don't want to.
Well, I know that. You're all in. And you're picking Michigan.
I am.
Straight up. So you got to bet the money line?
Yes, already have.
Look at that. Good for you. We talked about it a little bit yesterday, how many of you have major SEC fatigue and how even SEC fans out there, and you do have to acknowledge most of the quote-unquote SEC fans out there along the west coast of Florida are Gator fans.
Right.
So when it doesn't take much to get a Gator fan to say, yeah, I'd love to see Michigan win.
Well, and it's like we've got a lot of Buckeyes in these parts as well. They're rooting for the Gators. Well, of course you are. I'm rooting for the Dogs because the last thing you want to see is Michigan in the national championship game.
And that goes back to what we've talked about. There is no collective feeling of pride amongst members of the other conferences. Fans of a Big Ten team do not chant Big Ten, Big Ten, Big Ten.
Although it would be nice if they went B1G, B1G.
Maybe you heard 7 people do that at Yankee Stadium yesterday for Maryland's resounding win over Virginia Tech.
They just keep rolling in bowl games that don't matter.
I think that Maryland's now officially a member of the Big Ten after yesterday.
By winning a bowl game?
No, by winning it the way they did.
Oh, by whacking somebody.
Yes, and remember, they did it where? They did it in New York. It's going to get just a touch of ink. All right, and so now the Big Ten's like, you know what? You did a little something for us there. We really appreciate that.
All right, I want to get into because we've got great guests today, and we've not spent 20 minutes really getting into the semifinal games, you and I. And one of the things when we had Angelique Shangelis on yesterday, one of the things I wanted to ask her, and we ran out of time, is who's the better game coach in the Michigan-Georgia game?
Oh, I don't think there's any question.
It's Harbaugh, right? By a landslide.
Yeah. I mean,
he coached in the NFL. He went to a Super Bowl. I mean, I've got to give it to the guy who's done more, quite frankly, than Kirby.
Yeah.
In game.
Yes. He's been in more big games as a head coach, and he's won more of them. And if there's a knock on Kirby, quite frankly, it is his in-game coaching. Some of the decisions he has made, whether it's who he is choosing to play a quarterback. And then, of course, there was that glorious fake punt on 4th and 11 with Justin Fields. Not that Alabama saw it coming or anything. They just had their defense out on the field.
Right.
tie game, SEC championship, you win, you go to the playoff. I mean, there's nothing riding on this. Nothing at all.
So that's the other factor in this game. Like, if you want to say they're even, and I think they're really close. Georgia on paper is going to have more talent because, well, the recruiting magazines give SEC players a half more star.
Well, either everybody was grossly wrong about the talent level, or Georgia does have more talent. I mean, Georgia was preseason top 5 everywhere. Michigan was preseason bottom of the 25 or not in the top 25 everywhere. So I think if you're going roster, and it's not that Michigan doesn't have a handful of elite players, but if we're doing rosters, one team is deeper and more talented than the other. But the one thing they don't have is a terrific quarterback.
And to me, that's everything, because Michigan has the ability to get after quarterbacks with 4 guys.
The other thing that Georgia's trying to do is they're trying to win a national championship without a good or better quarterback. I mean, Stetson Bennett is not seen as even a good quarterback. He's not. He's seen as a capable one.
I'd argue he's the 4th. If you ranked the quarterbacks, he'd rank 4th. I think the Cincinnati kid would rate ahead of as a college quarterback. Maybe not,
Yeah, I think if you left it up to the coaches to pick quarterbacks, I think there's a good chance that he gets picked last more times than he gets picked 2nd or 3rd.
Unless, of course, Kirby's picking first.
Well, right. And
because
that's all
he can't
that matters.
pick a quarterback.
And there is, of course, that intrigue in the game if they fall behind or if they are struggling. Even if it's down 3, down 4, does Kirby have the guts to go to the supposed 5-star recruit who's the backup quarterback who transferred in from USC? Does he have the guts to do what Nick did to him if it's just not working? He resisted that urge in the SEC championship game. Don't know if it would have made a difference. It's not like the defense was getting a ton of stops. That's the other thing that's at work here. I mean, come on now. Put yourself in the shoes of the Georgia defense. Last time you were on the field, man, it was name the score day. And so what if Michigan early goes down the field or hits a big play and puts 7 on the board early? Man, you're the Georgia defense. You start thinking, what the hell's going on here?
Yeah, maybe we didn't play anybody.
I was going to say.
Maybe this is
maybe there's a reason the SEC's 0-4 in all these bowl games. We just weren't very good. So there's a lot of intrigue in that one. That's the nightcap. The first one is, hey, can Cincinnati compete?
Yeah. Can David compete? It's David and Goliath all day long. Can Cincinnati do it? They are a team that likes to run the football. Alabama is as good of a run defense as they will ever face. But you've watched some teams gash Alabama.
Yeah, a lot of teams have gashed Alabama on the ground this year. A lot of them. Florida did it. LSU did it. To some degree, Auburn was doing it. Arkansas was doing it. Texas A&M did it. But then also got a really big game from Calzado. And that's the thing. It's difficult to beat Alabama without getting a big game from your quarterback. Because ultimately, at the end of the day, Nick is a lot like Belichick, in which he will make your quarterback beat us. And that's why we've told the story many times. You go back to the 2008 SEC championship game. Alabama took a 3-point lead to the 4th quarter. Nick made Tim Tebow beat him from in the pocket. Tebow went 7 for 7 in the 4th quarter, threw 2 touchdowns. Nick, after the game, shook their hand and said, congratulations. He shook off that loss in 1 minute and 13 seconds. Said, hey, we had it all set up there. This is how we want you to beat us. Beat us if you can. You did. Well, good for you. Congratulations. We'll see you next year.
And you look at the amount of time that they've had to prepare for Cincinnati, they're going to make Cincinnati beat them in a way that they've not had to beat other teams, likely.
But it takes one day, and you don't have to be out of this world, but you need to be good at the very least. You need to be, if not very good, make big plays. I mean, Alabama's human. They've given up plays. Hell, they've nearly lost 3-4 games this year that they were really in the fourth quarter. They were in one-score games.
No, if Alabama would have beat Georgia in a close, low-scoring game, I don't think we would have all these same feelings. I mean, the last time we saw Alabama, it looked like every other Alabama team we've been watching for the last decade. I mean, Georgia was supposed to have one of the best defenses that college football has seen this century.
Meanwhile, the game before that, when we saw Alabama, we thought, well, this is the worst team Nick's had in his 15 years.
Correct.
I mean, if it wasn't for Bryce Young, this team would go 7-5. So which is it? Did Alabama just have one of those days? Combined with Georgia, by the way, having a bad day.
Right. Did Georgia get exposed, or did Georgia just have an out-of-body experience because it was Alabama, and that's what seems to happen when they play Alabama?
Like sitting here in the studio, we happen to have the 4-letter network on, and they're running a rebroadcast of that Pinstripe Bowl. And the interim coach for Va Tech is walking across the field shaking hands. They just got beat by 44 points. All right. At some point, somebody from the Va Tech administration comes over to him, and he just kind of shrugs his shoulders like, well, if you compete in sports, you're going to have one of these days. And it started off badly and got worse. And every adjustment we made it worse. And I'd like to think we were prepared for this thing. This was a big day for me. I'm trying to get future work. I put a lot into this. Yeah. Dan Lanning, he's the new head coach of Oregon, but he's calling the defensive signals for Georgia Friday night. Does that matter? We've seen it both ways. We have seen it both ways, where guys hang around and it works and they go out triumphantly. We've seen it where they stick around and people afterwards go, it was a distraction. A lot of intrigue in the second one. It's up to Cincinnati to provide the intrigue in the first one.
And boy, oh boy, is the college football world sure hoping, at the very least when the second half starts, that there's some intrigue in that game.
I think they can do it. I think they can provide intrigue.
I hope you're right.
I think it'll help them a lot that Mechie's hurt. All right. It's a lot easier to defend one delete wide out instead of two, particularly if you've got three guys in the secondary who everybody says are going to play on Sundays.
Right. I mean, it might be the best part of that defense.
And so I think Cincinnati's equipped to make Alabama beat them with a slow death. And Alabama does not have a Najee Harris. I mean, if you're Cincinnati, you'd love for Alabama to, you're fine, run the ball. Run the ball. You got no game breakers back there. Trust me, we'll tackle you after 3, 4, 5 yards all day. You got nothing back there. We got better running backs than you do. I mean, seriously.
They do. And their D-backs are good. Really good.
So we'll see.
And we've said it all along. They have no kicking game.
We have never gotten two good semifinals in the same year since they've gone to this. 2014 is the first year of a 4-team playoff. We have never had both games be good. In fact, quick math, we've had 14 games. We've only had 3 of the 14 that we consider to be good.
Yeah, there's a much greater chance of both of these games being blowouts than there is of both of these games being good.
But maybe, just maybe, Mark, because 2021 was a year the likes of which we haven't seen in college football in a while. Maybe that trend continues in the college football playoffs. Let's hope so. Miller and Moulton. A lot to kick around. We'll look back. We'll look ahead since this is our final show of 2021. Some of the things that we may predict or look forward to in 2022, and you as well. Going to have a very funny poll question. At least I think it's funny. My co-host, not so much. But Miller and Moulton. The starting 5 is a mere 20 minutes away here on the Florida Sports Network.
Power Peel at Home training system. This complete body swing trainer, uses resistance band connection system to fix bad habits and ingrain a more consistent, powerful swing. The Power Peel system is powered by functional golf swing training technology. It trains both your swing and body at the same time. Simply make a few prescribed resistant band connections, and in a few steps on the peel, you'll swing better, feel better, and play better. Use it before your round of warm-up, as your daily fitness routine, or anytime you want to feel and train the swing you've always wanted. Pair the Power Peel with the Orange Whip Golf and Fitness at Home training technology, available with a monthly membership, and maximize your results with Golf Fitness X coach-led programs that take less than 20 minutes a day. Buy the Power Peel training bundle now for 4 interest-free payments of $115 by going to orangewhipgolf.com and use code Miller10. That's code Miller10 to save $45. Go to orangewhipgolf.com and use code Miller10 to save $45 and play better golf. Go to orangewhipgolf.com. You are listening to Miller and Moulton on the Florida Sports Network. I'm just looking for my own joy, Steve. So just looking through Farks for Good, Bad, Ugly, and one of the titles was how we are less religious than ever before. The new study, like 6 percentage points. And we don't have time in this break. But I do think that there's a little correlation between sense of community and a little bit of religion. Is there anything you see us going forward to ever have a sense of community again?
If there's a national disaster of some kind.
But that's a short-term thing. It only lasts until we get back on our feet.
No. Most likely, but maybe, just maybe.
I mean, because it's places like that, high school football games, you know what I mean?
Yep.
That was my whole thing about the Bonita Springs High School. You got to have something there that people.
Welcome back to Miller and Moulton, only on the Florida Sports Network.
As we approach 22 minutes past the hour, top of the morning to you. Miller and Moulton, the Florida Sports Network, the Florida Sports Network. It's our last show of the year, so we jammed it with many of our favorite guests. Bud Elliott in an hour, Seth Everett in 2 hours, Pat Kirwan in 3 hours, and we'll even head to Atlanta, get the Dogs' perspective on their national semifinal tomorrow night in Miami against Michigan.
Naked dog walking in. Sorry. Going to Atlanta, I want a varsity.
No problem. No problem. So how's your new car?
Funny you should ask, David. I still don't have my car.
Wait a minute. What?
David, I realized when I got my credit card statement and went through, because I actually put the deposit on a card. And so I was looking through my monthly statement and I went, did I really put that deposit down on November 30th?
Wow.
It's December 30th.
As a matter of fact, it is.
I don't have a car.
Well, I get that because there's a golf cart, once again, parked next to my car in the back parking lot, which I must admit I love. I love you driving around in your golf cart because you're 52 going on 82, and I love it. I absolutely love it because usually I'm the old soul on this show.
Well, that is true.
Also, it's an early preview. This is my wife's dream, you know.
I know.
My wife, that's how she wants to basically.
What does she want, though? She wants a
blinged out pink
golf cart.
Right. I'm envisioning something like Caddyshack, only pink.
It's quite a vision. You'll fit in well at the Villages.
I don't think we're going to go Villages.
With that golf cart, I think it's mandatory.
Well,
I mean, it's a direct route.
I think we'll be accepted most everywhere, though, if you get a car. There's a few that'll say, no, I'm sorry, you're not allowed. But then if that's the case, we wouldn't want to be there. But that's okay. So that's what we have to look forward to in our next life. And I'm getting an early preview now. I love you driving to and from work in your golf cart. But there is a time in which I know you want to be able to take a vehicle.
Well, there are times I want to go to a place that's not within a block and a half of my house, basically.
Right. More than a mile. Correct. Yes, a vehicle. Right. Doors.
Yeah, doors.
Doors. You would like doors. Yes.
An engine.
Well, I mean, listen, I love the Fred Flintstone's method of transportation, just kind of pedal it, get it going. And so, not necessary.
Coming from work on the sidewalk with the golf cart, every once in a while, there are some pedestrians out there. And needless to say, I get some really peculiar looks at around 10:15 every morning.
I'll bet you do.
And they don't want to get I'll go around them. Sometimes they're biking on the sidewalk and they panic about in like a half mile before I get to them. They just see it and freak out.
Exactly. Oh my goodness. Which way am I going to go?
He's coming out.
Oh no. I've got 3 choices here. All right. Straight, left, or right. What do I do? What do I do? So, Listen, I think we need to start having a little fun with this because I know it's killing you, and I know you're on the verge of I'm dying over here and getting angry. So I think we should have some fun with it.
Sure. Let's have some fun with it, David.
Hey, come on now. I'm the focus of a lot of poking and jabbing on this. And this is not of your doing, by the way. You should not take this personally. This is not of your doing.
I'm not taking. Well, I'm taking it personally that I don't have the car. I'm not taking what you're doing.
Well,
personally.
right, but you shouldn't take the poll question personally. It's not a reflection on you.
What's the poll question?
I think the poll question should be, when do we think Mark's going to get his car? And
is
I
Super
know
Bowl Sunday the final answer.
Well, you know what? Great. Between now and then, those are our choices. I mean, and by the way, I do think that it's possible that I just won the a-hole moment of the show at 6:26 a.m. But I'm sorry. I think this is a good, viable, funny question. When is Mark going to get his car? And you need to somewhere in the question say deposit was placed in late November. All right. So there you go. You were promised this car, by the way, like 3 weeks ago, right?
Yes.
I mean, around the 8th, I think
in fact,
it's coming.
Yesterday, I once a day, I sent a text to the salesman.
Oh, yes. Well, and I'm sure this must be the highlight of your day.
See, believe it or not, it's not like that. My wife gets on me for too many question marks. That's the thing that she says is the root thing. All I said yesterday, my text was very simple. Anything, question mark, this is getting ridiculous. I think that's fair.
Yeah, I do too. Right. Did you get a response?
I got a response. Just waiting on drivers to deliver it to us, which has been the case now seemingly for a couple of weeks.
So in other words, we know where the car is, but no one can pick it up and transport it.
I followed that up with, when is that going to happen, with 4 question marks. Apparently that's 3 too many in my wife's world.
So that's
obnoxious. Apparently multiple question marks in a text is obnoxious to her.
I think when you're waiting 3 or 4 weeks for a car, I don't think you can have too many question marks.
But I didn't even get a response to that one. And I asked my wife at 6 o'clock, can I just send another question mark?
Right. You know, I see you're taking this much better than I would.
No, ironically, David has taken this a lot harder than I have. David has told me, you got to make ultimatum. I'm like, great, I make it ultimatum. They're going to say, good, here's your deposit. I'll sell it to the first guy that walks in. We happen to have a shortage of these things right now.
Listen,
I need one. They've got me over a barrel.
I'm not saying you have to give an ultimatum. I'm just saying that you are allowed to go, just so you know, I'm out actively looking for your replacement. So if I find it, don't be offended. Right? That's all. Just let them know. I'm not sitting around, okay, typing too many question marks on my phone. Right, Raj?
I think you should be allowed 1 question mark per day that you've been waiting. Right?
You know, that's not a bad theory. So you're allowed 30 question marks. So then you need to decide, do you put them all in one text? Right? Or you spread them out over multiple texts? See, like when he didn't respond to your second question, I would have waited a couple hours and I would have gone, Bueller, ... Bueller. You know, I would just start messing with him back.
I've got you. I understand that. And
I got to get some enjoyment out of this. I'm driving around in a golf cart.
Or I'm really desperate.
Right.
Nothing like having to use mom's car to take mother-in-law to the airport. I don't know if you want to talk about one of the worst moments of an adult life. It was yesterday for me around noon when the mother-in-law is telling me how great it is. I have a wonderful mother that will let me borrow her car.
Right.
And I wanted to say, how about you get a damn Uber?
Translation, by the way, my son-in-law is such a loser. Has to borrow his mother's car at the airport.
Bingo. I mean, I've just been beaten. I've been beat down in the last 5 days.
Translation. This sucker hadn't produced me a grandchild, he'd have no net worth at all.
No.
Right.
Because the grandchild's already there.
Well, right now they can move you. Right. Yeah, they could move. In fact, they're probably plotting it. In fact, your mother-in-law has probably said to your wife, listen, next time I come down, if he doesn't have a car, you need to move on.
Right. I think she probably told my mother that at some point.
And your mother probably agreed. That's the problem. So we got to get you a car, and maybe we got to have a little
loser.
We got to have a little fun with this.
So I've got January 1.
Oh, come on. Are you serious? That's Saturday.
Well, it means it would come today or tomorrow.
Okay.
No.
You got a text yesterday saying, well, the car's sitting on a lot in Temple Terrace, and eventually I'll get Charlie to drive it down here.
Something like that.
Right.
Next championship game, January 10th.
All right.
Super Bowl Sunday.
You don't want to go anything in between? Like NFC, AFC Championship Sunday? It's January 30th.
All right. Sure.
It's up to you. I mean, I do not think it happens before the national championship game, by the way. Right. I think under January 10th, I'm going to go over.
You want to know what I actually think at this point? I think they've sold the car to somebody else.
Probably.
That's what I'm waiting for.
Probably. You know, you know why?
Then the gloves will come off.
You know why? Their mother-in-law called them up and said, hey, get rid of that car. I'm trying to get rid of him. All right, just unload the car.
Don't we have a starting 5 to do or something like that?
As a matter of fact, we do. Oh, look at the time. 29 minutes before the hour. Miller and Moulton. As Sonny said in our Twitch chat room, I've got my best guy on it. Miller and Moulton, the Florida Sports Network.
It's been a great start to the NFL season, and it's only getting better at DraftKings, the official daily fantasy partner of the NFL. DraftKings is putting new customers in the center of the action with a free shot at millions of dollars in total prizes. Get in on the action now. It's simple. Just pick your lineup, stay under the salary cap, and see how your team stacks up against the competition. Feel the NFL action like never before with a free shot at millions of dollars in total prizes. DraftKings is safe, secure, and reliable. And the best part is you can deposit and withdraw your cash whenever you want. Download the DraftKings app now and use code M&M. This week, new customers can get a free shot at millions of dollars in total prizes. Enter code M&M to get a free shot at millions in total prizes with your first deposit. That's code M&M only at DraftKings, the official daily fantasy partner of the NFL. Minimum $5 deposit required. Eligibility restrictions apply. See DraftKings.com for details.
You were listening to Miller on the Florida Sports Network. Before the baseball lockout. God, you people are.
That's funny.
You people are really funny today.
That's funny. Before the baseball lockout. That's outstanding.
And Jim, I didn't feel like going to the Facebook thing there, but Mr. Cyan, hello. And yeah, tape it. You got what I meant. You understood what I meant. Cyan's asked me if I had enough coal to run the VCR to tape the game. On reel to reel, as a matter of fact.
That's just for us.
This is pretty funny. Just saw a tweet saying both the vaccinated and unvaccinated could catch COVID. A doctor responded, both Serena Williams and I can play tennis.
Makes the deck on good point.
And imagine, Chris, if they had an offensive line, a running game.
Chris, I'm wondering, are you waiting for it to get to 7.5?
No. Can't believe Miami is at 7. He's talking about the Dolphins.
That's what I mean. 7.5. Isn't he talking about the spread?
No, I think he's talking about Miami sitting at the 7 seed.
Oh,
You know, the Dolphins.
Gotcha. I thought he was talking about the spread on the game.
By the way, Chris, just curious, in that last game, I know he sucked. Was his numbers better or worse than the guy who's won 5 Super Bowls?
7.
I'm just curious because Tom Brady got shut out by the Saints, dude. I don't know what to tell you. Just won 7 in a row, but he can't suck enough. Been waiting for you, buddy.
Yep.
Outplayed Brady against the Saints, okay? Stop. Go look at his numbers. He's better than a lot of quarterbacks right now. It's not arguable anymore. What he's doing with that offensive line is pretty amazing because he's running for his life. And he's getting better every game. And yes, he still throws. Oh, so Tom gets a pass when he gets shut out by the Saints, but Tua sucks. Okay, there you go. I love your world, man. Happy New Year, buddy.
Tough to take a guy seriously who can't admit he's wrong.
Because I do it at least once a show.
So is the question posted?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Pinned up to the profile.
It's so funny. I'm sorry.
Oh, it's great. Hey, David, we just got a segment out of it.
And a good one.
As PFB says, you guys did a whole segment on Mark's car woes, and it was entertaining. Well, thank you. It's our charm.
Thanks for listening. And now, more of Miller and Moulton on the Florida Sports Network.
22 minutes before the hour. Miller and Moulton, the Florida Sports Network, the Florida Sports Network. It's our last show of the week, meaning it's our last show of the year. Great show lined up for you. Bud Elliott in an hour. Seth Everett in 2 hours. Pat Kirwan in 3 hours. And at the top of the 8 o'clock hour, we head to Atlanta to preview the Georgia-Michigan national semifinal tomorrow night. Is that poll question up?
It's up. In case you missed it, I put a deposit on my new car November 30th. I still don't have a car. When do you think I will get my vehicle? January 1, January 10, which is the Natty. Championship weekend, which is the end of the month, and Super Bowl Sunday, which right now has the lead. You guys are all really funny.
Yeah, we are. And we're trying to bring you along with us, too. Well, listen, I mean, you've already driven your mother-in-law to the airport in your mother's car. I mean, it can't get any lower.
It really can't.
And the only way it can get lower is if she flies down. When's she next planning to fly back down?
First communion in April.
Okay. And now if you have to pick her up in mom's car, I have to admit that'll be
I think I'm going to do it regardless.
Now that's well played. That is well played. And don't say a word, by the way.
And tell my wife to just
yeah, go along with it.
don't say anything about the car.
Right. Just work with me on this. Come on. Right now it is time for
The Starting Five. 5 stories you need to know. It's the Starting Five on Miller and Moulton. Here's number 1.
it's the last show for Raj, too. And he's already mailed it.
Oh.
He's gone. He's thinking more about your car
Exactly.
is about this show. How about we start with college football?
Let's.
First off, 3 of the 4 bowl games yesterday got played. These days, that's considered a good day. In the Alamo Bowl, Bob Stoops. I loved everybody going, big game, Bob, big game, Bob.
Right.
Okay, it's the Alamo Bowl. Number 1, it doesn't qualify as a big game. 2, you're playing Oregon with an interim head coach, just like you. Oklahoma did look good, though, and they won 47-32. Does Bob get credit for the win?
He should, yes. According to the article I'm reading,
Good.
Stoops earned win 191.
Might as well come back, do one more year, get to 200. Pinstripe Bowl. Maryland is now officially a member of the Big Ten after yesterday's 54-10 rout of Virginia Tech. The Big Ten has now welcomed Maryland officially into the conference. And the Cheez-It Bowl in Orlando. Clemson defensively getting it done once again, beating Iowa State 20-13. This does finish the season for Dabo 10-3. It's the 11th consecutive 10-win season for Dabo and Clemson. 2011 through 2021, 11 consecutive seasons.
The game was mildly entertaining. I was about to text you third quarter, though, and it was 6-3.
Right.
And said this is reminiscent of the Sun Bowl, and then a couple of good defensive plays, made some short fields.
So 4 bowl games scheduled for today, kicking off with the Mayo Bowl. That's right. Both
For all the mayonnaise.
Both coaches have agreed to, I don't know if they're getting dumped in a big vat of mayo
Or getting mayo dumped on them.
Yeah, but both coaches have agreed to it. Mac Brown's line, it's North Carolina against South Carolina. Mac Brown's line was, I'd agree to get hit in the face with a frying pan if it means a win. Tough not to root for Mac Brown. It really is. NFL news, little this, little that. Aaron Rodgers has said, listen, it's not going to be nearly the soap opera this offseason as it was last offseason. I'm going to decide things very quickly. So most people believe that this is Aaron's last days as a Green Bay Packer, Super Bowl championship, MVP or not. Jimmy G says, quote, definitely, unquote, there's a chance I'll play Sunday. If you were the Niners, he's got a busted thumb on his throwing hand. You saw him playing with it in the second half of the Tennessee game. He was all over the place. Why would you play him?
What are they seeing in practice? Is there something that we don't know? David, I have no idea.
I think it'll be a big indictment of Trey Lance if he's not playing Sunday for the Niners. Lamar returned to practice for the first time in over 2 weeks for the Ravens. Listen, Frank Reich admitted he called Phillip Rivers. With Carson Wentz having tested positive for COVID and his status for Sunday being up in the air, they won't know until Sunday morning whether or not he passes a COVID test, whether or not he can play. Sam Ehlinger right now is the backup. Reich admitted, I called Phillip Rivers. Listen, this is not unprecedented.
The Saints called Drew Brees.
Vinny Testaverde was sitting at home on a Wednesday afternoon eating lunch one time. Carolina called him. He got the win Sunday for the Panthers.
But, I mean, they called Brees this year, too. This is not unprecedented this year.
No.
Yours is a few years ago, and it's a great story because Testaverde, like you said, got the win. But, come on, if we know the Saints called Brees and we know the Colts called Rivers, how many other players were getting phone calls with this COVID going on?
I mean, for how many years then are you going to be calling Brady?
Right.
After he finally retires. I mean, the joke was, for how long were teams calling up Favre going, hey, you think you could just finish out the year for us? Carolina, by the way, has decided to start Sam Darnold Sunday against the Saints instead of Cam Newton.
Cam is 0-5 as a starter this year.
He is. I wouldn't blame it all on him. I mean, he hasn't played particularly well, and I will say he has not, in his second full year after the shoulder surgeries and all that, he has not shown that he's a starting quarterback in this league anymore. He just isn't. All right. And if you're Carolina, you've got a little money and a little draft capital invested in Sam Darnold. So I think it makes sense to put him out there and, try to turn things around. Mark, there were 71 games scheduled in Division I men's college basketball last night. 71.
I'm going to go with 16 canceled.
Higher.
I'll just double it. 32.
That's exactly how many games were postponed or canceled due to COVID. 39 games were played. Amongst those that were played, there were 3 battles of ranked teams in the Big East. Providence edged Seton Hall by 5. In the SEC, Bama edged Tennessee by 5. Also in the SEC, Auburn 15 better than LSU. Hey, give it up to the Canes. Not sure how good they are, but they do have 10 wins. They beat NC State last night. They hadn't scored 91 in a conference game in a long time.
And, I mean, early on, it's back-to-back conference wins for them. Puts them 2-0 in the ACC, so that's a good start for the Canes there.
Miami 91-83 over the Wolfpack. The other Florida schools that were impacted by COVID yesterday: UNF, FAMU, Bethune-Cookman, South Florida, the Gators, and the Noles all had their games canceled because of COVID. Jacksonville was a big winner last night against an inferior opponent. NBA, it's a rarity, hasn't happened that often, but the Heat had their game against the Spurs postponed because they literally did not have enough bodies to field the starting lineup. And they had played just the day before where they only had 8. I mean, they won a game with only 8, which is the minimum that you have to have, even though you could think the minimum is 5. And really the minimum could be you're allowed to play with less than 5 guys on the floor.
Right.
I mean, you don't get a technical or anything like that. I mean, you could, the old scene from Hoosiers.
I was going to say, we've all seen Hoosiers.
Right. My team right there. I mean, you are allowed to do it. But the Heat did not have the minimum number of healthy bodies, and so their game against the Spurs was postponed. I don't know if you're paying attention, but this Ja Morant kid's pretty good. He had 41 last night to withstand LeBron's 37 and Memphis' 5-point win over the Lakers. Knicks have won 3 straight. They beat the Pistons by 9. Phoenix with an 18-point win against Oklahoma City. The Suns and the Warriors are both tied for the best record in the league at 27-7. We talked about this a little bit yesterday. The World Junior Hockey Championship north of the border, outside of the NHL, it's the biggest sporting event in the country. No joke. The World Junior Hockey Championships, which was being held in Western Canada.
Between Edmonton and Red Deer, Alberta.
Yeah, they postponed it yesterday because of COVID. The U.S. had to forfeit a game a couple days ago because of 2 positive COVID tests. The U.S. were not happy about that. Then yesterday, I think it was Russia and a couple of other countries were forced to forfeit games. And I mean, a win in the standings is a loss.
I don't want to challenge. You said suspended or postponed. I thought it was canceled. Everything I said, the tournament's done.
Okay, that's true. I mean, postponed gives the impression we will play.
Yeah, I'm not trying to mince words there.
No.
But because I was stunned. I went to watch it yesterday. I'm like, they canceled the tournament?
Yeah, the World Juniors. And I'm telling you, it is a really big flipping deal north of the border. And they canceled it.
Apparently so is COVID. If they had held the tournament in Florida, we'd still be playing.
There's no doubt about it. 5 games were canceled in the NHL yesterday. Here's what's most concerning. All of the postponements before and after the Christmas holiday all involved Canadian teams until yesterday. The Red Wings Islanders game got canceled, and the Dallas Stars Colorado Avalanche game got canceled.
And the league just changed their protocols of it was 10 days of confinement if a positive test. They lowered it to 5.
Right. And yet 5 games still canceled. Right. Panthers were in action, and they scored 3 in the third to beat the Rangers yesterday 4-3. And Mark, if you think the World Juniors is a big event, it's nothing compared to the Westminster Dog Show at Madison Square Garden. All right. And they postponed that sucker. It was scheduled for late January.
Oh, boy.
Yeah.
Between having to use my mother's car to take my mother-in-law to the airport, and now this being canceled, I don't even know if I can talk to the mother-in-law anymore. She's going to be distraught.
I understand. We could have a new poll question. What will happen first, the Westminster Dog Show or Mark gets his new car? And that was jerk.
That was the Starting 5 every weekday morning at this time on Miller and Moulton.
Boy, is that ever a blank-eating grin over there, Mr. Moulton.
Come on. When you get good material, you cannot let it go. I'm sorry. Not when you do sports talk for a living. You get good material. You got to pound that sucker home until maybe you just do one too many. Just you go either a little 2 inches too far or one joke too many.
By the way, do you know for that World Junior, if any team received a single positive test result, the entire team had to have a mandated quarantine. That's why this tournament ended.
Right.
So Canada's goalposts are very close to one another.
But here's what I don't understand. If you're going to be that stringent in your testing and in your policies, then why is it you were trying to have the tournament, quote unquote, as normal? Like last year or 2 years ago when they had the World Junior, well, it would be last year, obviously. They, had it in empty arenas, empty hotels. They shielded everybody from everyone. Well, if the rules were essentially the same, then why were you trying to have it with crowds? Why were you trying to have it in hotels where people could just mingle and go as they please? I mean, if you're going to be this stringent, you were setting the tournament up for this. I mean, come on now. If you want to be this stringent, which you and I would be against, but if you want to do this, fine, it's your tournament. Well, then you got to give the tournament the best chance of being played.
Right. You have to.
Yeah.
I mean, if you're going to be that stringent, you have to bubble it.
And it's too.
And the NHL right now is in a real dilemma. And we had Dave Mishkin on yesterday, and he pointed out, as we've talked about, there's a 3-week buffer period now that they are not going to the Olympic Games. That's great. But the number of games that they're losing is increasing rapidly. And 3 weeks may not be enough at the rate they're doing this, not to mention all of these buildings have booked events. And David, my guess is there are going to be certain states that may start limiting attendance and things of that nature around this country.
Oh, yeah. Absolutely. I mean, I'm wondering, are we going to end up having games played, home teams playing on the road, or are minor league buildings going to be used for one or two, for just the occasional game in which it's like, listen, the both teams' arenas are tied up. So what are your guys' AHL affiliates? Oh, your A affiliate's building is available? Fine, we'll play it there. I mean, it's a regulation size rink, right? Everything else, quite frankly, is just details. If the rink is regulation size, we can play here.
Well, and David, for a while, there was talk, and we're in the Fort Myers, Naples area. We're on in Tampa, right? Smack dab. We've got a minor league team, 7,000 seat building. I didn't think it was good enough because I didn't think the locker room facilities would be there for both teams with already a minor league team there. But as you said, at this point, who cares?
Yeah. I mean, the NHL is going to have to decide, though. Right now, they do not want to play a single game without fans in the stands.
Well, then they're going to have to decide on what their COVID rules are, and they're going to have to change them, quite frankly, if they're going to get this season in.
Yes, because the NHL right now is not playing by the same rules as the NBA and the NFL, which is basically put your head down, damn the torpedoes, full speed ahead.
Yeah, and if your AHL season gets canceled, so what? Get 40 bodies, get 45 bodies up here and field a team.
Miller and Moulton. The poll question on the show, pretty easy. Mark put a deposit down on a car November 30th. He still doesn't have the car. When is he going to get his car? Your guesses are between Saturday and the Super Bowl. Go to that Mark Miller, the David Moulton on Twitter and vote. Miller and Moulton. Bud Elliott will join us next hour on the Florida Sports Network.
Bring your big mouth to John Smith Subs and indulge in their overstuffed subs with the freshest quality ingredients. Enjoy our famous steak bomb with perfectly grilled marinated sirloin steak topped with provolone cheese, grilled onions, peppers, mushrooms, crispy bacon, juicy tomatoes, and creamy mayo. Boom! Made-to-order crispy fries can be paired with the Gator, the Cuban, the Chicken Bomb, or the Italian. Love local. Eat delicious with John Smith Subs. Find a John Smith Subs location near you today.
The Firestone Grand Prix of St. Petersburg, presented by RP Funding, roars through the streets of beautiful downtown St. Petersburg, February 25th to the 27th. 3-day tickets are on sale now at gpstpete.com. It's fast, fun, family entertainment jam-packed into 3 days. The weekend is highlighted by the NTT IndyCar Series race taking the green flag on Sunday afternoon. It all happens at the Firestone Grand Prix of St. Petersburg, presented by RP Funding, February 25th to the 27th. Get your tickets at gpstpete.com to secure the best seats.
It's been a great start to the NFL season, and it's only getting better at DraftKings, the official daily fantasy partner of the NFL. DraftKings is putting new customers in the center of the action with a free shot at millions of dollars in total prizes. Get in on the action now. It's simple. Just pick your lineup, stay under the salary cap, and see how your team stacks up against the competition. Feel the NFL action like never before with a free shot at millions of dollars in total prizes. DraftKings is safe, secure, and reliable. And the best part is you can deposit and withdraw your cash whenever you want. Download the DraftKings app now and use code M&M. This week, new customers can get a free shot at millions of dollars in total prizes. Enter code M&M to get a free shot at millions in total prizes with your first deposit. That's code M&M, only at DraftKings, the official daily fantasy partner of the NFL. Minimum $5 deposit required. Eligibility restrictions apply. See DraftKings.com for details.
You were listening to Miller and Moulton on the Florida Sports Network. That's what I think.
You're talking about the dog show at Madison Square Garden. Well, Fish had to postpone their MSG run for New Year's this year.
Is that where they play?
Yeah, and
Widespread did the same thing in Atlanta.
Yeah, and Fish pushed their MSG run back to April unless the Knicks make a certain round of the playoffs. So many hippies cheering.
That's funny.
And if they get to do that April run, they'll have a show in Madison Square Garden on the 420 holiday.
Oh, okay.
That'll be a big one.
You gonna make it to New York for that one?
I did make it for one of their MSG shows.
I've never seen anything. I've only been to New York once. I've never seen a show at MSG.
I went there for one day just to see one of. Did you hear about their 13 show run there, like in 2017?
No.
Baker's Dozen.
Oh, okay, there you go. I like that.
They played 13 shows there without repeating one song.
Really?
Yeah. They called it the Baker's Dozen.
That's pretty
And
cool.
They had a donut theme for every night, a different flavored theme. Donut. Pretty good.
I like it.
Yeah.
If I liked them, I would really like that.
They covered Powderfinger for Powder Donut Night. Neil Young.
That's very cool. Ooh.
I don't need to call any guests this hour, do I?
No.
No.
Top of the 8 o'clock hour. No, you can go back to not paying attention.
Thanks for all the follows this morning, folks. Appreciate it.
Yeah.
I can't see it in StreamYard. I check Twitch periodically. So the Hustle, Ratbarg, and JS, thank you very much. Appreciate it. I am too, okay, music. Trust me. Pat Kirwan yelled at me when I told him that.
You are listening to Miller and Moulton, exclusively on the Florida Sports Network. And now, here's Mark Miller and David Moulton.
Minute and a half past the top of the hour. Welcome back to Miller and Moulton, the Florida Sports Network. The Florida Sports Network, last show of the week and then therefore of 2021. Got a great guest lineup for you. Bud Elliott coming up in a little more than a half an hour. We'll head to Atlanta in an hour and get the Georgia side of things in the Georgia-Michigan semifinal, which is just tomorrow night. And that's it. These games are upon us.
Right. 3 left.
Well, a lot more left, but
3 left.
right. I got you.
3 left that matter. But make sure you watch the Rose Bowl on New Year's Day.
Yes, it's all about 5 o'clock New Year's Day, the Rose Bowl. Man, oh
And this
man.
is not an anti-Ohio State or Utah thing. I would hope that everybody that's not an Ohio State fan boycotts the Rose Bowl and that thing gets a abysmal rating. It won't, but
no, because Ohio State's the best draw in the sport.
Right.
Buckeyes fans will watch just because, well, it's those helmets and that uniform and the shoulder pads. But I'm with you. I'd love for the Rose Bowl to just tank, for us to just turn on the granddaddy of them all.
And as a lifelong Big Ten guy, I get its importance, and I get making the Rose Bowl being a big deal. I really do. But the fact that they've allowed that game to control when the semifinals are played is asinine. They're sacrificing big ratings that they would have been getting on Saturday to play the games on Friday night. That's just a fact.
And, Mark, that kind of leads me to where I want to go. Since this is our last show of 2021, I want to look into the future just a bit, just a touch.
Ooh, Moulton's crystal ball?
Well, Miller and Moulton's crystal ball. All right. What is it that you are hoping for, expecting, desperately wanting, and or think will happen in 2022? You know, it could be little. Could be like, hey, I think in a week and a half that the forces at work are going to get together in Indianapolis and they're actually going to work out this whole 12-team playoff. You know, it's something little like that. Or you think, no, it's going to implode and we're going to have status quo for the next 4 years.
I do not think we're going to have status quo for the next 4 years. I do think they are going to get something done. I don't know if I necessarily have a prediction for what's going to happen, but what I'm most interested in 2022 is not necessarily what they do with the playoff. It's how schools develop their NIL departments. That Gator Collective has me fascinated. What Texas and Kentucky have done is incredibly impressive on a different level.
You know, a prediction or a forecast for 2022 is that the transfer portal / NIL is going to continue to be poorly received by fans.
And what's interesting is yesterday I had a little back and forth with a local high school football coach who has just flat out said that, and he's helped not just his kids, but he's helped hundreds of kids get recruited. It's what he does. It's kind of his thing. And he doesn't know what to tell them anymore because now it's grad transfers, transfer portal, high-level recruit. And he thinks a lot of guys are slipping through the cracks that are high school seniors. So I do wonder, and I'm going to ask about Elliott about this when we talk to him here coming up. That's my only really recruiting question for him is how many kids are slipping? How is this going to affect Because if it starts affecting the relationship between high school coaches and college coaches, I don't know if something will get done, but I would think that may speed up the process to change things more quickly.
In what way? Like, I don't know what recourse the high school coaches and the high school kids have, to be honest with you, because the elite kids are going to continue to be recruited. The ones that are not going to get scholarship offers are essentially the middle class kid. Okay, whether it's a glorified 2-star or a 3-star. They may be the ones that don't get the offer, or at least don't get the offer from the place that up until now they would have gotten the offer.
Well, that's why I think this, to me, could bode really well for the rest of them.
You mean the group of fives?
Group of fives, bad Big Ten teams.
See, I agree.
You know, the UCFs of the world, and I'm not trying to knock them, but they're a Big 12 school. They're not an elite school. Well, Florida and Miami, you know, conceivably, if Cristobal does his job there, there's going to be guys that slip through the cracks, and I think that there's a lot of schools that could benefit from this.
My guess is prediction from Bud, and we haven't talked to him about this in a long time, but my prediction is that when you ask Bud how many kids are slipping through the cracks, that the answer is going to be over 500. That it's going to be, it's not a crack, it's a canyon. Okay, that the coaches, I mean, think about it. If you were a coach, and we all know the pressure that is on you to win, are you going to take a grad transfer or a transfer, someone who's older, who's already experienced Division I college ball to some degree? Are you going to take them, or are you going to invest that scholarship in a high school player?
Absolutely. For instance, we've been wondering when Clemson's going to jump into the transfer world. Well, they didn't get the kid, but there was a top lineman from Virginia that was between Clemson and Michigan, a center. He ended up going to the University of Michigan. That, to me, marked a big change. When I see Clemson going after the highest prized transfers, they may be a lot like Alabama, David.
Right. Bama brought in 2 last year, a middle linebacker and a wide receiver.
Right. They've already got a running back coming this year.
Right.
You just got done saying, you know what they don't have is a Najee Harris.
Yeah. Well, they will next year.
Correct.
Right. And so, you know, the Clemsons of the world can be pickier. You would expect that. They've got deeper rosters. But that's part of the dynamic that's at work. You and I are in favor of this. We wanted this. We knew it was going to be messy. We are willing to give it a 3-year run, maybe even 5-year run, and let it play itself out, and then pick up the pieces, have a couple of meetings, and figure out if we need to rectify things. There are a lot of people in the sport that are not. They're already panicking. They're already wanting to have meetings. They're already wanting to rectify this before next recruiting cycle.
And these two things combined, again, repeating myself, but what Kentucky and Texas have done, they've basically started 501(c)(3)s, charitable organizations, big donors, given 2 crooked numbers to start these things up. Florida's gone a different way, the little guy, where you subscribe $20 a month, and they already have 26,000 people doing that. Do the math. And then you get exclusive interviews. You get the opportunities to get merchandise. And the players who work with this group get money. Concept, because if I'm a diehard Gator fan, now I can get exclusive Gator stuff, merch, the players, and I feel like I'm part of the program.
Hold on, exclusive interviews? Should we be signing up for a couple of these schools? I mean, if it's that cheap, I mean, we can never get these interviews. I mean,
well, you just get them on their site.
Oh,
you know, we wouldn't be interviewing them per se.
Damn.
But okay. It's interesting that you say that, though. How long is it before radio stations? You know, I mean, Tom Brady gets paid to do his spot on whatever. And
Westwood One. Yeah, absolutely. Well, Texags signed a couple of kids this year who I think one of their 2 running backs, and I thought it was the quarterback, but Texags signed 2 of the A&M players before this season, in which those kids would only exclusively do their interviews through the Texags site.
Right, other than post-game stuff when they had to be up on a podium or whatever the case may be. But and again, that's I know that's not necessarily the university. It's in a row. But what I'm saying is, when's the Florida Sports Network going to say, you know what? We're going to get this Gator. We're going to get this Hurricane. We're going to get this Knoll. And we're going to pay them to come on our show every week.
Well, we do have a budget meeting scheduled here early in 2022. So we'll have to look into that. Just you're a little testy today after that poll question. All right. You were in a much better mood at the beginning of the show, but then I came off the top rope with the poll question. I decided to take a big win with me, okay, into the new year. Mark put a deposit down on a new car on November 30th. He still does not have a new car.
No, I still think they sold it to somebody else. Someone else did tweet that at me.
It's entirely possible. Mark had the very pleasant occasion of having to take his mother-in-law to the airport here earlier this week and had to borrow his mother's car to do it. Nothing screams success to a mother-in-law quite like your son-in-law having to borrow his mother's car to drive you to the airport.
I am such a beaten man after the last 4 days.
So 2021 is not ending well for half of this show.
In through the nose, out through the mouth.
So I, of course,
just breathe.
Very supportive behind the scenes for most of the last 3 weeks. But I'm sorry, you get material that's good. At some point, you got to go with it.
What I love about this is he thinks he's been supportive. His support has been. Here's what to do.
I've been supportive. Constantly tell you what a good dude you are. All right, I have been supportive. Okay, but I'm willing to be your angry cousin. I'm willing. I'm willing to be the one going in there screaming and yelling while you just stand there and go, I'm sorry, I couldn't keep him away any longer. This is what I have to deal with all day. Miller and Moulton. Do you have any predictions? Anything that you really want to see happen in 2022? I mean, where is it you want to see certain quarterbacks playing? Because, you know, that's going to start up again here real soon. Real soon. In fact, we may have that carousel before we have any baseball.
Yeah, or before I have a car.
There's that. Miller and Moulton. See? Even you're getting in on the act. I told you the material's too damn good. And even you know it.
It sucks.
Even you know it. The material doesn't suck. Your reality sucks. The material's spectacular.
Maybe onto something.
Miller and Moulton, the Florida Sports Network.
Mark Miller for Orange Whip Golf and Fitness Power Peel at Home Training System. This complete body and swing trainer uses resistance band connection system to fix bad habits and ingrain a more consistent, powerful swing. The Power Peel system is powered by functional golf swing training technology. It trains both your swing and body at the same time. Simply make a few prescribed resistant band connections, and in a few steps on the peel, you'll swing better, feel better, and play better. Use it before your round of warm-up, as your daily fitness routine, or anytime you want to feel and train the swing you've always wanted. Pair the Power Peel with the Orange Whip Golf and Fitness at Home training technology, available with a monthly membership, and maximize your results with Golf Fitness X coach-led programs that take less than 20 minutes a day. Buy the Power Peel training bundle now for 4 interest-free payments of $115 by going to orangewhipgolf.com and use code Miller10. That's code Miller10 to save $45. Go to orangewhipgolf.com and use code Miller10 to save $45 and play better golf. Go to orangewhipgolf.com. You were listening to Miller and Moulton on the Florida Sports Network. I'm a big fan of the Patron model. If we could start using the Patron model and I'll do a shot before I do the podcast, that'd be perfect. Everblades had their 1,000th win last night. Why didn't they just let the tiger rip off the man's arm? That's what I want to know. That's what I would have voted for. I don't want to do that story in The Good, Bad, and Ugly. It's too sad. Really is. They didn't have to kill the tiger. I would do it.
Right.
I love there's a death in Bonita, so a murder in Bonita, so I'm looking at it. It's like this our sheriff there, Carmine. Hate to see this innocent life taken, but we have no information on what happened. Well, how do you know he was innocent? I need to win the Powerball. That would be what we need. How surprised were you that what's her face got convicted after? I mean, what I was reading, it was a sham of a trial.
Really?
Yeah. Like it was supposed to take 30, 40 days. It didn't 10. Witnesses not showing up. I mean, there was a Barstool guy that actually covered it really well, and he was going nuts. It's like, how are they not doing this? Like, and like this is basic lawyer 101 shit. And like was going, and like he wrote yesterday, he goes, well, somehow they got the guilty. Don't know how. And and he went through all the reasons, but because they were apparently deadlocked when it started, the jury.
Well, they debated for 9+ days.
Yeah. Well, and the trial lasted 20 days shorter than what every expert said it was going to do. New scroll.
You're listening to in Moulton, exclusively on the Florida Sports Network.
And we've been encouraging you for a while. Welcome back, Miller and Moulton, the Florida Sports Network, the Florida Sports Network. We've been encouraging you for a while to check us out on Twitch, the Miller and Moulton Twitch.tv channel. And if you are watching us on Twitch, Mark is in charge of all the technology. Obviously, otherwise we'd never get on the air if I was in charge. And so we have a scroll, and usually it involves some kind of advertising or a point Mark wants to make. Well, Mark's getting in on the act. What's that scroll say?
Days since Mark put a deposit on the car.
30. There you go. There you go. So 30 days and counting. It's the focus of our poll question. When is Mark going to get his car? No one thinks he's going to get it by Saturday, January 1st.
Thanks for your support.
Yep.
Someone asked this in the Twitch chat room. I saw this yesterday. We were talking a lot about John Madden and his passing, and David was terrific. If you missed yesterday's show, I suggest downloading the podcast. His stories had stories on John Madden. It was spectacular. But the video game, I heard this yesterday. You know, Madden was the third person offered the video game.
Did not know that.
Joe Montana was who they went after first. He already had an endorsement deal with Atari. The second choice was Cal coach Joe Kapp. He demanded royalties. They didn't give it to him. And then they approached Madden. They wanted the game to be 7-on-7, and Madden said, no way in hell will I be behind a game that's not 11-on-11 real football. Even then, Madden thought the game could teach people about football. He did not. He was offered stock in EA Sports and did not take it. He ended up getting some pretty great royalties by the end of this thing and did pretty well, but he was offered as much as he wanted in the initial public offering. He called the decision the dumbest thing I ever did in my life by not taking it.
And John Madden made a lot of money in business, a lot of money. And I don't just mean his endorsements. He had real estate. Already sold the land off to almond farmers and avocado farmers, and he made a ton, 8 figures in real estate dealings. John Madden is a wealthy man.
Well, he ended up getting 9 figures from EA Sports when it was all said and done.
But it makes you realize what could have been
right.
had.
He could have been a billionaire, probably.
Easily could have been a billionaire. So Miller and Moulton, I just want to throw this out there very, very quickly. As this is our final show of 2021. So as we head into 2022, and goodness knows we'll have plenty of time to talk about this, so I don't want to spend a ton of time. Gut feeling, Aaron Rodgers, staying or going?
Staying.
Going. I think, by the way, what will be interesting is that Rodgers, if you're Green Bay, you obviously, if he says, hey, I want out. Okay, well, you're going to want to do the same thing you did with Favre, send him to the AFC. Well, I mean, Rodgers can always threaten the whole retirement thing.
Correct.
Which he kind of thinly veiled did in the last week. So I'm wondering, once again, how far is Aaron willing to play this to say to Green Bay, hey, if I retire, you get Bubkiss from me. Bubkiss. You sure? I mean, if I insist, I want to go to New Orleans. Okay. And you can still get a mouthful from them. I mean, I'm not having you get less. I'll make sure that New Orleans has to pay up. All right. So that you're taken care of. But I want to go to New Orleans. And they go, yeah, we're not going to trade you to the NFC. And he goes, oh, then you get nothing and you'll like it. I mean, that to me is going to be the interesting part of this. Because I think he's going to say, I'm done. By the way, I think he's going to say, I'm done going off with a Super Bowl trophy. I have felt that all year.
No, I know.
That Rodgers was going to win the Super Bowl this year. And then he's going to say, I'm out of here. And by the way, I was right. Okay? I was right.
I think he'll, even though if that's the case, I think he'll end up being the anti-Brady from that regard because he's not that likable. But he's going to be right, and he's going to have won, and I think he's going to let everybody know.
I don't even think he has to say a word. If he's walking off that field with the trophy, I think it's already spoken.
I got you, but I don't think that's enough for him. See, I think he's got too much
ego. No.
A-hole is what I was going to say.
Nice. Well played. Deshaun, where does he end up? Gut feeling. My $20, so it doesn't matter.
Miami.
Ooh, interesting. Washington. My gut feeling. I
think Mr. Ross still wants him.
I think he does too. I think this winning streak is so
the winning streak's coming to an end here, though. And he's not going to make the playoffs, and then he's going to get his dander up again because he's getting older and he wants a Super Bowl, and he's not patient. Someone in the Twitch chat room did say Carolina. I think that's a another great place to put your money on with Deshaun Watson, the whole Clemson thing.
I also think Philadelphia is in play. Tua and Jalen Hurts, it's ironic they were teammates because you want to talk about two guys that both franchises apparently are just patting on the head and can't wait to move on from. Are Tua and Jalen Hurts. But, that's all. That's all.
I'm rooting for him to stay more than I am. That's probably more heart than head. I just think he'd like to see him finish there. I'd like to see them get it right once with one of their quarterbacks here.
Yeah, I'm tired of going to Green Bay in January. I wouldn't mind.
I know you.
Right.
That's the other reason, too. I like you going to Green Bay in January.
I know you do.
I really do. You know. Russ?
Yeah. Where's Russ cooking next year? Do you think it's in Seattle?
No, I don't.
No, I don't either.
I don't think it's in Seattle. I have no idea because I don't think they'd trade him to an NFC team either.
I think they would trade him to wherever they get the best deal. I really do. I don't think that the Seahawks have any. They're Schneider and Carroll will deal with anybody, anywhere, anytime. They don't have a problem giving up things. I don't think they would have a problem.
Houston.
Ooh, that's interesting.
That's where the best deal might be, David.
That's interesting. I think either Rodgers or Russ ends up in Denver. One of the two has to end up in Denver.
Okay.
So I think Rodgers ends up in New Orleans, and I think Russ ends up in Denver. And I'll say it again, Denver was 7-7 when they handed out the Pro Bowl announcements, and not a single Bronco made the Pro Bowl. And they were one of 6 teams who didn't have a Pro Bowler, and the other 5 are the 5 worst teams in the league. I mean, it did jump off the page and say to you, maybe this Vic Fangio's not doing a bad job. Now, they don't have the offense figured out, and they clearly need a quarterback. But most of the rest of the team's pretty damn solid. Like, I'll tell you what, you put Aaron Rodgers on Denver, all right, I think they challenge Kansas City for the division title next year.
Well, I think you're right because we know the defense is solid, and if Rodgers is coming, it means at least they're gonna end up with 1 or 2 more weapons that would want to play there with him because I think they lack enough talent. I mean, the running backs are good. I think they need 1 more receiver or a tight end.
Maybe.
But I mean, they got a good running game. I'm with you. I mean, it's close.
And people in our Twitch chat room bringing up, Russell Wilson's wife is a singer, and so she wants to go to New York and what have you. I don't see the new GM of the Giants. The first thing he's going to do is he's going to trade his 2 first-round picks, both in the top 10 of the draft, for a 33-year-old quarterback on a team that is so far away from contending, it's laughable.
I will say a few people have thrown out Pittsburgh for Russ, and they're not afraid to trade a draft pick.
If you're Aaron Rodgers, would you be willing to, if the Packers literally say, listen, we're going to call your bluff, we're not sending you to the NFC, but the choices in the AFC are Denver or Pittsburgh?
Denver. Denver's O-line's better.
Oh, I understand. But to me, this is almost like when Jimmy Johnson had his choice between the Bucs and the Dolphins, and on paper, the smarter play was Tampa Bay. But he took a look at Miami, and he said, they've got Dan Marino. I'm going to go there. Even though the Bucs had so many more young players, so many more resources, the whole deal, he went to Miami and tried to make it work there. We all know Denver's roster is arguably better and deeper than Pittsburgh's.
Right.
But Pittsburgh has some elite talent at the top of the roster, and the one thing the Steelers can do is they produce wide receivers.
Well, and they have good ones right now.
And Aaron gets rid of the ball quickly, so he makes bad offensive lines decent. I mean, I'm just wondering, if you're Aaron Rodgers and the Packers say to you, listen, dude, the NFC ain't happening. So your 2 choices are Pittsburgh or Denver. We'll send you where you want to go. It's your call. We're happy with the compensation packages with both. You let us know. You would go Denver.
I would go Denver.
Ooh, boy. Tough to turn down that tradition.
Yeah, I know. Look, you're better than Ben. I get it. It's not close.
Right.
I'm not, but
Tomlin. I mean, Rodgers has already professed his admiration for how much he likes Mike Tomlin. Just I don't know. I'd be torn if I was Aaron. I'd be really torn.
I think he wants to go west too.
Yeah.
I think the fact of the matter is if he would prefer to get further west.
I mean, the good thing is wherever he goes, it's going to be a better weather city.
There is no doubt.
There aren't a lot of quarterbacks who choose Pittsburgh and go, man, it's balmy here. Bud Elliott on the other side. Miller and Moulton, the Florida Sports Network.
It's been a great start to the NFL season, and it's only getting better at DraftKings, the official daily fantasy partner of the NFL. DraftKings is putting new customers in the center of the action with a free shot at millions of dollars in total prizes. Get in on the action now. It's simple. Just pick your lineup, stay under the salary cap, and see how your team stacks up against the competition. Feel the NFL action like never before with a free shot at millions of dollars in total prizes. DraftKings is safe, secure, and reliable. And the best part is you can deposit and withdraw your cash whenever you want. Download the DraftKings app now and use code M&M. This week, new customers can get a free shot at millions of dollars in total prizes. Enter code M&M to get a free shot at millions in total prizes with your first deposit. That's code M&M. Only at DraftKings, the official daily fantasy partner of the NFL. Minimum $5 deposit required. Eligibility restrictions apply. See DraftKings.com for details.
You were listening to Miller and Moulton on the Florida Sports Network. Yeah, I think you're on to something there, Sled Puppy. I think we all agree with that. It's a joke. Oh, Dabo went nuts. Did you see that play?
Mm-hmm.
So Iowa State runs a flea flicker. They pass it to the wide receiver who's, 2 yards behind the quarterback, and then he throws it, double throw. The DN is charging, or the linebacker is charging the receiver who caught the ball. Comes at him like this, hits him in the head. They call 15 for roughing the passer. It's a double throw. He hit him in the head, but he's not the quarterback. I didn't have the volume on, so I don't know what they were saying, but I mean, Dabo was going nuts. Huh. Nick, Bobby, and Dabo, huh?
Did you send Bud the thing?
I did. He should have. Has he texted you by chance? Because I did send it to him.
No.
I sent it to both of them. I'll text him right now. Just send it to him again.
Why did he say you didn't get it?
I don't know. He didn't say anything. I just sent it again just to make sure. Yeah, why couldn't they just hack the guy's arm off and call it a day? Let the tiger have a little lunch. My guess is it probably makes a tiger more apt to eat more humans. That's the only problem. Because some jackass wanted to pet a tiger. Wow. ESPN Radio, 30 years old, New Year's Day. Launched January 1, 1992.
They started with weekends, and then they had the fabulous sports pad.
Yep. Debut offering 16 hours of programming, was carried on 140 affiliates. By 96, it was ESPN Radio with weekdays.
You're listening to Miller and Moulton, exclusively on the Florida Sports Network.
"23 minutes before the hour, Miller and Moulton, the Florida Sports Network. The Florida Sports Network. Dan Matthews, who covers the Dogs from Georgia for 680 The Fan in Atlanta. He will join us coming up at the top of the hour. Our last show of the week means it's our last show of the year. National semifinals tomorrow. Alabama, Cincinnati, Michigan, Georgia. They say 3:30 and 7:30. I'll be curious how close, whether or not that's when they begin coverage or that's when they're kicking.
I hope it's when they're kicking, because that gets that Michigan game over with around 11:30. I mean, that should be a 3.5. I mean, Michigan and Georgia should be a relatively shorter game by college football standards.
Yes, because there should be more running.
Right. I mean, both teams like to run the football. Clock tends to move a little bit more.
So we think that'll be a 3.5 hour game.
That should, yeah.
Right.
They should be able to get that done in a little less than the NFL window allows.
Right. We think Cincinnati, Alabama has a chance to be about a 3:50 game.
Well, that's the whole problem, is that the length of the first game dictates the start time of the second game.
Well, it is true. They're not starting that second game on ESPN News.
Well, and they're not starting it with, it's probably 40 minutes, 30 minutes after the end of the game. They got to get some post game. They got to set up the next game. This
ain't a Missouri Valley basketball doubleheader here. No, no. They're getting their money's worth out of this sucker. That is for sure. Bud Elliott is going to join us here in about 60 to 90 seconds.
Or even sooner than that.
Wow, he's faster than I thought he was. I figured the second child would have slowed him down. Bud, good morning.
Morning, guys. What's going on?
How are you? How's everybody?
Well.
How's mom?
Mom and baby are doing great. 2-year-old is adjusting, so everybody's doing well.
How's dad doing?
I'm doing pretty well. We're trying to play just pretty much strict man to man. She kind of takes the newborn and does her thing with she's a little more equipped for that, right, than I am. And
yes,
I'm basically just taking I'm just taking the 2-year-old and trying to handle him.
All right, so
you get that we're playing a tight man-to-man.
I was going to say, so she's a cover corner and you're a zone corner. Is that what you're saying?
Pretty much, yeah. I'm kind of keeping an eye on the 2-year-old and then drifting once in a while, and she's kind of overseeing the whole operation.
Right. So in other words, you're that corner who's always yelling for safety help. Is that what you're saying?
Yep.
Gotcha.
Hey, but before we get into the semifinal games, yesterday I had a little back and forth with a high school football coach about recruiting, because he had just put up a statement that said, I don't even know what to tell incoming freshmen anymore. I have no idea. The whole game has changed. And I simply said, NIL, transfer portal, both. He said both. And a long-winded question to say, Bud, he seemed to think a lot of guys are missing are falling through the cracks. As you're going through this with the portal, with grad transfers, with NIL, how difficult is it for the 2- and 3-star guy to even get a look that he was once getting before?
So he's not wrong that they're not getting looks in the same number that they used to get, but I think he's missing a crucial component of this, and it should give high school coaches hope for the future. So last year, in order to entice all these college players to play college football, the NCAA gave everybody a free year, right? A super senior, a COVID senior. So if you were on a roster in 2020, 2020 didn't count for you. So you still have 4 more years of actual playing that you can play, 2021 through 2024. However, they did not adjust the maximum roster size. So you have all these extra college football players with extra eligibility who are transferring everywhere because they still want to play. In many cases, hell yeah, I'm going to take a guy who's played 3 years of college football at, Georgia. Maybe he couldn't start at Georgia, but if you've been able to hang around in that program for that long, you could probably play for me at Temple or wherever, right? So I would tell high school coaches out there, we have 2 more years of this after this year. We have to wait for all these COVID seniors, or super seniors rather, to wash out. And then I think we'll probably reach some sort of equilibrium. But this is artificial right now because of the way that the NCAA changed. I don't disagree with how they did it as far as giving extra years, but because they also didn't vote to expand the roster size, they've created this really weird crunch.
But I thought you had a number, and I don't know if it was last recruiting cycle or maybe it was during the summer in which you got a chance to actually sit down and do the math. I mean, I thought it was like 350 less scholarships were offered to high school seniors than the year before because of the COVID dynamic and the extra year of eligibility and what have you. Have you been able to figure out in this recruiting cycle through early signing just how many fewer scholarships are being offered to high school kids, or is it just too early? We got to wait till we go through February and wait till the dust settles.
So I think it is too early slightly because of all the coaching changes that we had. We're still going to see kind of how the rest of this shakes out, right? In the traditional signing period, which is of course on the first Wednesday in February. I think we're still going to have a whole lot of portal activity, but I don't know that we're going to have that many fewer high school scholarships given out this year than we did last year. Certainly, we're still seeing, I can just eyeball this, far fewer than pre-portal, and especially far fewer than pre-COVID senior.
He's Bud Elliott. You can follow him on Twitter at Bud Elliott3, Bud Elliott3. He of 24/7 Sports, Cover 3 podcast, co-host of Nolecast. Bud Elliott joining us once again here on Miller and Moulton.
Clemson, 10 wins. Dabo now becomes one of 3 coaches to have ever had 10 or more consecutive 10-win seasons. He, Bowden, and Nick Saban. And to me, of all that, that's all great. But when I saw that, even though he lost out on the center from Virginia in the transfer portal, who's now going to Michigan, the fact that Clemson was runner-up for a transfer means Dabo's going to try to really hard keep at that 10-win pace, isn't he, Bud?
Look, he has to figure out a way to adapt, right? And I'm somewhat skeptical of all the internal promotions that he keeps making, but clearly, like, they believe in their culture there. But if the rest of the sport is taking transfers, you have to do so as well. He's won 10 games 10 years in a row.
11.
Wow.
11.
That is really great consistency there.
Yeah, I mean, that goes back to 2011. That goes back to the Taj Boyd, Sammy Watkins class is where it started in 2011, and he's now had 11 consecutive. Nick's on a run of 14 in a row, which ties Bowden. So Nick, barring the unforeseen, will break that record next year, which is a record that we thought would maybe last a little bit longer. All right.
You guys want another stat on Clemson?
Sure.
All right. So Clemson's won. Give me the only other team to ever pull an outright upset in the college football playoff. So
Oregon.
Win any game as an underdog.
Ohio State. When they beat Bama in 2014.
Okay.
They've done it 3 times, actually. And Clemson has 4 upset wins. Nobody else as an underdog has ever won a college football playoff game.
Well, and Bud, we've been talking about it all week on this show. I think we put the number of competitive semifinal games at like 4. And so the getting 2 good games tomorrow are really slim. With that being said, which game do you anticipate being the better game?
I think, well, if we define better as close, then Georgia Michigan to me does profile as the closer game, because I'm not really sure that either team can pull away via the explosive play. Maybe they can. And if they do, it gives me greater hope for a more competitive national championship game. But I think Georgia Michigan to me is kind of more interesting, but there are still a lot of storylines I like as well in Cincinnati, Alabama. And I'm glad you bring up, by the way, the lack of competitive semifinals, because I don't want this Bama-Cincy game to be a referendum on the G5. We've seen Bama smack pretty much every semifinal opponent that it has ever played. Michigan State, Notre Dame twice, I think. Washington team they played. They really, oftentimes that fourth team is not very good, and they do get stomped by Bama.
Well, Bud, don't you think, and I'm not, passing the buck here, but I guess I am a little bit, isn't it really going to be imperative on people like you that are part of the national media scene in college football that if by chance Alabama wins and they cover, so it's a 3 or more score win, that you have to go, hey, don't come down hard on Cincinnati. Oklahoma got beat 2 years ago by 5 touchdowns in this game. Okay, don't do it. I mean, Ohio State got beat by 24 one year in a semifinal. I don't want to hear it. Clemson got goat rodeoed by Bama one time. I mean, don't you think it's imperative on the national media to let people know, hey, this has happened pretty much every year?
100%. So Florida State lost by 4 or 5 scores. Oklahoma, as you mentioned, Oklahoma again, by the way, lost by 3 scores a couple years ago. Notre Dame's been stomped twice. That Michigan State team, 38-0. So this game is oftentimes non-competitive, and Clemson lost to Bama by 3 scores when they had what's his name is the QB. The one year they did not have right. Trevor or Watson.
Sean, right.
All right. What is Cincinnati? What do they have, Bud? If we're wrong, and I think Alabama's going to win, I wouldn't be surprised at all if they covered. But if I'm wrong, why am I going to be wrong? What is it that Cincinnati has when you start looking into this, Bud, that goes, all right, here's the path for Cincinnati, even if it's not to win, but mid-third quarter going, holy crap, we've got a game.
All right, so number one, clearly, it's Cincinnati's corners living up to their NFL billing. If you talk to the NFL guys, they think Cincinnati's secondary is for real. Bama obviously is down receiver John Mechie after he tore his knee in the game against Georgia, so that is a big loss for them, I think, because they are relying on freshmen. Now, of course, many 5-star 24/7 Sports freshmen, including Brooks, the kid from Booker T down there in Miami, who are going to be called upon to step up. And, of course, they still have Williams on the other side, who is pretty damn good. But I think limiting those guys' ability to create explosive plays, forcing Alabama to execute in the red zone. When Bama has struggled this year, it has largely been on red zone and tight zone issues, right? Go back to the Texas A&M game. Also go back to the game in the Swamp. If Bama executes in the red zone in the Swamp, they probably score 45, but they didn't. They still won the game, but Florida gave them some trouble there in the tight red zone. So the ability to match up and play good enough pass defense to not allow the explosive play. And on the other side, using the tight ends, trying to exploit Bama's secondary. They have to find a way to get Will Anderson blocked, but in such a way that they don't overuse their resources. You can't just double them every single play. Bama's too good otherwise. You have to find ways to isolate them. And I would say I'm a bit of a Desmond Ridder skeptic. I have a bet on the Cover 3 podcast with my co-host Tom Fornelli that Ridder's not going to be a first-round pick. I may lose that. We'll see. But I think they need to run him like crazy in this game as well. I would want to see him, 8 or 10 design runs in this game.
And that's something that they have not done with him this year. But remember, when we had Mo Egger on a couple days ago, Mark, he was saying the same thing, Bud, that he last year, and in the past, they have done this with him. And it's one thing to keep it in mothballs all year, but this is the game to break it out. All right, when Georgia, Michigan, we're surprised the number's 7.5, 8. Are you?
Not really, because my power ratings make it close to that. So Vegas sees this and they evaluate all 13 games. The public is going to look at the trends and say Michigan has improved down the stretch, which I agree. And Georgia did not play a good game, obviously, against Alabama. I think this largely comes down to who is taken out of their comfort zone more. And to me, that is probably Michigan, because Michigan is a team that wants to pound the ball. Even though I think Kirby Smart at heart probably wants to pound the ball, Michigan is a team that really relies on pounding the ball and nobody has effectively run the football on Georgia's defense. The one team that has made Georgia look mortal has the Heisman Trophy winner at quarterback and spread them out and got rid of the ball very quickly. I'm not really convinced Michigan can do that. We'll see. I also doubted them somewhat against Ohio State, and they proved me wrong there. So it's not that I think Georgia's offense can just do whatever they want against Michigan's defense. It's a really good Michigan defense. But I do wonder, how effective can Georgia be, or can Michigan be, if either A, they're constantly behind the chains, because we know they're not very good in those situations this year, not that many people are, or B, if they acknowledge that they probably can't run the ball very well on Georgia, and they have to go ahead and try to spread it out and chuck it around early. Now, we have seen it once this year. This is interesting to me. Think about a team in the Big Ten that maybe has a pretty good front seven, but not the best secondary when it comes to pass defense, and who runs a Nick Saban-style defense like Kirby does. Oh, Mel Tucker, right, who's been the DC for both Bama and for Georgia. He's now the head coach at Michigan State. And in that game, Michigan did decide to chuck the ball around and was fairly effective at doing so. I do think Georgia is a different animal as far as what their front seven offers, and they probably don't have to blitz nearly as much as Michigan State might have to. But I also wonder, like, does that game give Kirby a blueprint for what Michigan is likely to do against this defense?
Well, that's my question, Bud. Name me the time that Kirby in a big game has outcoached his opposition.
That's fair. I thought that Auburn team that beat Georgia and Bama back-to-back, I thought he had great answers for them in the rematch in the Dome. What was that, 2017?
Okay. Yeah.
I mean, they really, like, they corrected everything wrong that happened in the game in Auburn, and they came out and they stomped him. I thought the one SEC title game against Bama that they lost, the first one, I thought he actually coached pretty well in that ball game. But you're right. Like, there is kind of a monkey on his back. He has to get off here.
Do you think they have to turn to Daniels at quarterback in order to win, or do you think that they can win with Bennett?
Not to win this game. If they do win this game, I do wonder, hell, they may not have to do it to beat Alabama. If they think they have a different plan that could limit Bama to a number in the low 30s. But if they think there's a chance Bama can hit that 40 burger again on them, they may not have an answer, right? I'm not really convinced Daniels is healthy and has the ability to do so, but I definitely think he's a better thrower when healthy than Bennett is. So we'll see if they have to turn to him down the line.
Bud, all the best to you and the family. Belated Merry and early Happy New Year. And if you're traveling, be safe, be well, and we'll talk again probably in the next 2 weeks.
Lots of zone, Bud. Lots of zone.
Right.
A lot of zone.
Keep it in front of you, Bud. Keep it in front of you.
All right, guys. Happy New Year.
Limit the big plays.
That's right.
We're all trying to limit the big plays. Bud Elliott, by the way, Bud Elliott CFB at Gmail. Give you a bowl winner or two. You can email him, budelliottcfb@gmail.com. He'll give you free picks, and Bud was 58 to 60% this year, I believe, making picks.
You can vote. It's a doozy.
It is.
Put a deposit on a new car November 30th. I still don't have said car. When do you think I will get that car? One voted for January 1st so far.
That's
One.
nice. Was that you?
The majority. No, I don't vote on the poll questions. Majority of you think Super Bowl Sunday. You can go to that Mark Miller or the David Moulton to vote.
Wow.
Keeping the faith, everybody. Just keeping the faith.
Miller and Moulton. Let's go to Atlanta next, shall we? Dan Matthews covers Georgia for 680 The Fan in Atlanta.
We'll talk with him, and then we've got Seth Everett coming up in the 8 o'clock hour, and a late appearance today in the bonus Fort Myers-Naples hour from Pat Kirwan, who will join us to finish out the year on Miller and Moulton. We'll end with the best. We'll come back and talk the dogs next. Right here, Miller to the Florida Sports Network.
Bring your big mouth to John Smith Subs and indulge in their overstuffed subs with the freshest quality ingredients. Enjoy our famous steak bomb with perfectly grilled marinated sirloin steak topped with provolone cheese, grilled onions, peppers, mushrooms, crispy bacon, juicy tomatoes, and creamy mayo. Boom! Made-to-order crispy fries can be paired with the Gator, the Cuban, the chicken bomb, or the Italian. Love local. Eat delicious with John Smith Subs. Find a John Smith Subs location near you today.
Firestone Grand Prix of St. Petersburg, presented by RP Funding, roars through the streets of beautiful downtown St. Petersburg, February 25th to the 27th. 3-day tickets are on sale now at gpstpete.com. It's fast, fun, family entertainment jam-packed into 3 days. The weekend is highlighted by the NTT IndyCar Series race taking the green flag on Sunday afternoon. It all happens at the Firestone Grand Prix of St. Petersburg, presented by RP Funding, February 25th to the 27th. Get your tickets at gpstpete.com to secure the best seats.
It's been a great start to the NFL season, and it's only getting better at DraftKings, the official daily fantasy partner of the NFL. DraftKings is putting new customers in the center of the action with a free shot at millions of dollars in total prizes. Get in on the action now. It's simple. Just pick your lineup, stay under the salary cap, and see how your team stacks up against the competition. Feel the NFL action like never before with a free shot at millions of dollars in total prizes. DraftKings is safe, secure, and reliable. And the best part is you can deposit and withdraw your cash whenever you want. Download the DraftKings app now and use code M&M. This week, new customers can get a free shot at millions of dollars in total prizes. Enter code M&M to get a free shot at millions in total prizes with your first deposit. That's code M&M. Only at DraftKings, the official daily fantasy partner of the NFL. Minimum $5 deposit required. Eligibility restrictions apply. See DraftKings.com for details.
You are listening to Miller and Moulton on the Florida Sports Network.
You had to be, I mean, outside of the outcome, you had to be pretty pumped. You could sit at home and watch Panthers and Rangers last night.
Yes.
Pretty entertaining third period. I know the wrong team won, but it was a hell of a third period.
Listen, those two teams play very entertaining hockey.
They go forward. And they go forward.
Go forward. Yep.
It's another one I didn't have volume on. I hate that the scrum there, Holmquist or whatever, he makes a good hit, makes a good play. Guy goes after him, and they, like, to me, Florida should have been on the power play. I hate those things. It's like,
Do I need to call this Atlanta guy?
oh, yeah.
You shoot me a text.
I'll do it right now.
All right.
Did you watch that TikTok video I sent you? How that? Watch this, dude.
How about the gorgeous brick there?
Yeah.
White Castle.
Kashmir by Zeppelin. Right? And I laughed. I'm looking at the comments, and someone said, "Just stick to playing guitar. Too much going on there, dude." I'm like,
Are you serious?
yeah, I don't know. Do you remember Michael Hedges, Raj? Michael Hedges was that remember that Wyndham Hill label that had all that, you know, artsy music back in the day, or new age music, I think it was called. Michael Hedges was an insane, like, this style of guitar player. Saw him a couple of times. Bless you.
Thank you. Been one of those days. The thing that I liked is Gallant. You know how, like, you need an adult. So after the loss, you know, they blew a third period lead. They give it 3 in the third. And, you know, the media with the Gallant said, you know what? They're a good team. We'll be fine. Because we had about 6 minutes, I'd like that back. He goes, first game after like a 12-day break. He goes, That's it. And they're like, so you're okay with the loss? He's like, yeah, I'm good. Because we probably deserved the point. He goes, but then again, they deserved the point last time we played them, and we snuck out of there with 2. So he goes, it's kind of where it should be. That's what they needed. That's what they needed. And that's a coach who's very comfortable with the room and with the guys, and he knows he's got a good team.
Well, and he didn't have to say anything after a game like that.
Also, the goalie let 1 or 2 in that he doesn't normally let in because he hadn't played in over a month.
The one snipe, however, the pass back to the slot. Oh man, that was a sexy goal. But those two teams provide 2 or 3 good goals.
Oh no!
I mean,
listen, the NHL.
We kind of blew that. We probably should have made that.
You are listening to Miller and Moulton, exclusively on the Florida Sports Network. And now here's Mark Miller and David Moulton.
Well, as is always the case, it depends on where you are. If you're in the Tampa-St. Pete area, this is the final hour of Miller and Moulton, not just for today, but for the week and for the year, for that matter, since we are not doing a show tomorrow. And for those of you in the 239, we are halfway home on this Thursday. Miller and Moulton, the Florida Sports Network, the Florida Sports Network. Seth Everett coming up in about 35 minutes. Pat Kirwan to join us at 9:30 with a bonus appearance. Pat Kirwan in our bonus hour. Dan Matthews is kind enough to join us once again. He covers the Dogs for 680 The Fan in Atlanta. Also the Southern Sports Today Network. You can follow Dan on Twitter at Dan Matthews ATL. Dan Matthews ATL. Dan, it's David and Mark. Thanks for your time and an early Happy New Year. How are you?
Thank you, guys. Really appreciate the chance to come on with you today.
Dan, a quick question, and obviously we're going to move forward. But I do need to ask one question. Every team does a postmortem, win or lose. From the people you've talked to in the program, for lack of a better expression, what the hell happened against Bama that they think will never happen again no matter who they play? What is it they took out of that game?
I would say probably the easiest explanation, excuse me, the easiest explanation is that, man, frog is jumping up this morning. Excuse me. I would say that the easiest explanation is that they tried to do things that they hadn't been doing all season long. I think defensively, playing a lot of zone, dropping 8 in coverage, just really kind of trying to rely on their coverage teams. And then when they did bring pressure, they didn't get there on Bryce Young. And, another thing is, too, you had one of the players, Lewis Seen, when we met with him as a media, asked him, hey, what happened? And he straight up said, we hadn't done this all year. So there's a lot of thought that Kirby kind of freaked out a little bit and thought, you know what, Nick's going to know what we're going to do. They're going to know that we're going to be in this look or something else. And we've got to switch things up. And it got him in trouble. And then also, too, it wasn't necessarily that they couldn't run the football. It was that they kind of got away from it. And there were key moments in that game that absolutely did them in. The 2 3 and outs, that was 10 points for Alabama. The turnover on downs, and then the pick 6, that was 7 points, and they lost by 17. So it was crucial moments in the game that they lost that now they're trying to get back and trying to make sure that they can put that one in the past and get a rematch with Alabama again.
Michigan may get after the quarterback as well as anybody in the country. They can rush with 4, and you see the numbers when Stetson gets pressured versus when he does not get pressured. Seems to me that that's the game for Georgia. Does it look that way to you?
Yeah, absolutely it is. I mean, they're going to have to be balanced if they're going to win this game. I don't think there's any doubt about that, guys. That means running the football and committing to running the football, because you can't allow David Ojabo and Aiden Hutchinson to tee off on you. If you do, they're going to finally get to you, because they're that good of players, and they're going to be top 10 NFL draft picks coming up in April. So, when you toy with players that are that talented, eventually it's going to bite you. And they're trying to make sure that doesn't end up happening in this game. So I think that that's going to mean being able to control the line of scrimmage, running the football, and being able to set up play action when indeed they do take their shots down the field. It sounds like a pretty simple formula, but it's also, too, something that they probably thought, hey, we need to do this again against Alabama, and they weren't able to do it.
Dan, and we're talking with Dan Matthews, 680 The Fan in Atlanta, looking ahead to tomorrow night, the Dogs and the Wolverines. Dan, are you hearing any inkling at all that someone could take snaps at quarterback in this game besides Stetson Bennett?
I kind of felt like, I don't know if you guys heard Kirby talk yesterday, but I kind of feel like he left the door open because he was straight up asked, will JT Daniels have a role in this game? He said it depends on situation and health. So it could also be, too, for Georgia fans that are tired of Stetson Bennett and want JT Daniels back. Who knows? It could be that the lat issue that knocked him out early on in the season or anything else has continued to be a persistent issue for him. So that could be something as well. As far as his availability for this game, he is back with the team. He got back with the team on Monday after a short bout with COVID. And, according to Todd Monken, the offensive coordinator, he had been working with the team virtually, and they didn't seem to be concerned about him having enough time to get ready for tomorrow night. So I think that if nothing else, the door is open for it, because I think deep down, Kirby Smart knows if we're up against a rock and a hard place with Stetson Bennett, I can lose this team and this fan base if I don't change. And I think that it's a real possibility, because if he tries to go to that podium after losing, and guys, nightmare scenario, I know that Chris Lowe of ESPN threw out it would be an absolute disaster for Georgia to face Alabama and lose for a second time. I said, I think it would be even worse to lose this game, because you'd have Georgia fans looking at this game and looking at this season and saying, what did we really do? We won 12 regular season games. We beat Kentucky at home. We beat, by their standards, down Clemson team early on in the season, but then we didn't win the SEC, and we lose in the semifinals. I think if that happens, Kirby Smart could be in for a very long offseason.
Well, 100%. And I've asked this question, everybody we've talked to about this game. Can Kirby be the coach in a big game? I mean, Jim Harbaugh has coached in a Super Bowl. This guy can coach across from him. I mean, to me, this is on Kirby as much as anyone else. I don't know if you feel the same way, but I think this is all Kirby.
No, 100% it is. And you're not wrong. That is the kind of, I don't know if fear is the right word, but Georgia fans kind of wonder that about Kirby Smart of, can he be able to make the right decisions in a big game? We've seen it in the past. They've had some massive missteps. I mean, the 2018 season, a couple of times come to mind for me. I was at the game at LSU when Joe Burrow and LSU were able to beat them as a heavy underdog in that game in Baton Rouge. And Kirby calls for a fake field goal. And I looked to my buddy and I said, when you're a heavy favorite, you don't do that. When you're a heavy favorite, you take the points and you say, we're the better team. We're going to be able to make sure that we win this game doing it our way. And I felt like when they did that, that gave LSU life. And LSU thought, we got a chance. We're a talented football team. We can beat these guys. And then, of course, the SEC championship game, which, my God, I'm not sure why Justin Fields was in on a punt. And then I don't understand how the ball was snapped to him at midfield. I mean, I just, as soon as I saw that happen, I was on the sidelines and I looked to the guy next to me and I said, that is completely unacceptable. That is completely unacceptable to have that happen. So until he does it, I think there's going to be people that have that doubt. I don't think there's any doubt about that.
Yeah. I mean, it's quite frankly, it's the worst in-game coaching decision of the last, I would say, of this century. A tie game, SEC title game, mid-fourth quarter, you're at midfield, you're going to pin them deep. They've had to resort to their backup quarterback, who granted was Jalen Hurts, but still. And you put in your backup quarterback as the up man on the punt. It's 4th and 11, and Bama recognizes Fields is on the field, so they leave their defense on the field. I mean, it's a staggering coach.
Right. Can you see that? You have a timeout. You could have taken a delay, for crying out loud.
Right. I mean, the key right there, as you said, was pin them deep. And then probably if you pin them deep, they're going to go more conservative in that situation, and you're taking your chances in overtime. But yeah, that was a tough one to get over for Georgia fans. I don't think there's any doubt about that.
Dan, the defensive tackles for Georgia had a really tough day against Alabama. What did the coaching staff have to say about that? Was that just the tempo of the Alabama offense? Because I'll tell you what, I mean, there's an old adage, if you can empty the tank on a big fella, the tank never gets refilled that day. And Georgia's defensive tackles, their tanks were emptied pretty much mid-second quarter. And Dan, I'm wondering, I mean, this should be the perfect game for them. This should be a phone booth game, a slobber knocker game. This should be perfect for them. Did they just have a bad day, or were some people exposed?
I think they just had a bad day. I mean, I think the fact that they weren't able to get to Bryce Young and they weren't able to create any type of pressure, and that Alabama was effectively able to run the football. I think they finished with over 5 yards rushing that day, especially, too, with a banged-up Brian Robinson Jr., which everybody I talked with that week said it didn't look like he was going to go. So he ended up playing. But, no, I mean, there was some bad film out there. I don't think there's any doubt about that. I mean, there was the one bit on Twitter of Jordan Davis just kind of like almost like looking like somebody playing basketball almost of trying to get around their man or you know trying to block them off or whatever it was. And that was something that people just said, man, that's a bad day for a guy that probably, if he had a huge game, you're probably talking about a lot of buzz about him going into the draft and going into the college football playoff. But you're right. I think that this is a good opportunity for them. I don't envision that Josh Gaddis and Michigan are going to run a bunch of pace. But I do wonder, though, if they do try to a little bit. I mean, especially with their run game, if they can get that going, kind of like what we saw when Gus Malzahn really had it going good at Auburn, because that was the thing. When Gus Malzahn had capable running backs, they were good. When he didn't, his pacing didn't really work all that well. And Michigan's definitely got capable running backs, and they've got very capable offensive linemen. Can they be able to sustain that pace? I think is going to be something to be seen.
I love the young tight end for Georgia. Give me the offensive weapon that has to have a dynamic game, and that's not a quarterback. Who's the difference maker weapon offensively that needs to be big for Georgia?
I mean, Brock Bowers obviously needs to be. I mean, him and Ladd McConkey have seemingly been the guys that have been huge difference makers in the passing game this year. I think if you have a really good game out of James Cook, that could be something. Dalvin Cook's younger brother. He's somebody that can factor into the passing game. He can factor into the run game and kind of be that multi-use weapon for you that if they can get him going in both parts of the game, then you feel good, along with Brock Bowers, who's shown that he is an absolute difference maker on the field. And if you can get him going, then there's a chance for this team to be able to have a much better offensive performance than they did last time. So I'm going to go with James Cook.
Dan, thanks for making time for us. Enjoy tomorrow night. That's why you work all year, to be able to cover the big games. Be safe, be well. Hopefully we can talk again down the road.
Sounds good. And I apologize for the large bullfrog I had in my throat early on.
That's all right. I've got
maybe the allergies are jumping me.
I've got the same thing. I've got that bullfrog's cousin, as you could tell. So, we're good. All good here. Thanks, Dan.
Thanks, Dan.
Little more bass in the voice. I appreciate it, guys.
Dan Matthews, 680 The Fan in Atlanta. Follow him on Twitter at Dan Matthews ATL. Dan Matthews ATL. You like the Wolverines?
I do. I have since the word go. Georgia's not played anybody. Can we establish that?
Clemson week 1?
No. Clemson's still terrible offensively.
All right. Okay. You do have to at least acknowledge me that this is the style of team that Georgia wants to play.
Absolutely. And I actually think the young quarterback from Michigan is going to have to make a difference in this game.
The freshman?
Yes.
So the kid that we didn't want to see on the field against Michigan State is the kid that you think we need to see on the field against Georgia.
Correct.
Okay. I like it. The Cincy quarterback needs to run a little bit.
Absolutely.
They've been holding him back all year.
100%.
And
Georgia, if the Georgia tight end has a monster game, that's going to be big for the Dogs. He's a matchup nightmare. We both know that.
Gut feeling. If you're Kirby, you turn into your backup quarterback?
I think he has to win. And I don't know if he will. If JT Daniels plays, I'm going to be wrong.
So you think if Daniels plays, Georgia wins?
Yeah.
But you're picking Michigan.
Right. Because I don't think Kirby will do it. I don't know if he's healthy.
He's healthy enough. If they're behind by 2 scores, he's healthy enough. Miller and Moulton, 15 minutes after the hour. Seth Everett in 20 minutes time here on the Florida Sports Network.
Mark Miller for Orange Whip Golf and Fitness Power Peel at Home Training System. This complete body and swing trainer uses resistance band connection system to fix bad habits and ingrain a more consistent, powerful swing. The Power Peel system is powered by functional golf swing training technology. It trains both your swing and body at the same time. Simply make a few prescribed resistant band connections, and in a few steps on the peel, you'll swing better, feel better, and play better. Use it before your round of warm-up, as your daily fitness routine, or anytime you want to feel and train the swing you've always wanted. Pair the power with the Orange Whip Golf and Fitness at Home training technology, available with a monthly membership, and maximize your results with Golf Fitness X coach-led programs that take less than 20 minutes a day. Buy the Power Peel training bundle now for 4 interest-free payments of $115 by going to orangewhipgolf.com and use code Miller10. That's code Miller10 to save $45. Go to Orange Whip Golf and use code Miller10 to save $45 and play better golf. Go to orangewhipgolf.com. You are listening to Miller and Moulton on the Florida Sports Network.
Adam, Georgia's got kind of a committee at running back. They've got 3 guys that they like. I think the one that Dan talked about, Cook, I think is the best of the 3. And I agree. I would feed him.
Sonny, you hate Michigan more than anybody I know, though. And I'm curious as to why you think that, Sonny. I mean, I don't care if I'm wrong. What is it that you've seen of Georgia that makes you think they're going to beat Michigan by 10? That's what I ask. That's what, the people that are picking Georgia. What is it that you've seen this year out of Georgia that gives you that confidence? And I mean, Georgia is the original Clemsoning. I want everybody to understand that. Nobody can screw a season up quite like the Dogs figure out ways to.
Nobody can Clemsoning like Georgia.
They were Clemsoning long before Clemson was Clemsoning.
Yep.
Been Clemsoning since 1981.
Yeah, 83. And they did play for the national title 3 years in a row.
And Georgia will probably win because this sets up perfectly for me. When I pick Michigan, they usually disappoint me. Wayne Wiles passed away.
Really?
Yeah. Sam Sirianni just tweeted it out. The Florida mourns the loss of Wayne Wiles. Community. Yeah. Had a lot to do with their scholarship foundation, I guess.
I know nobody cares about this, but Kyle Seager retired yesterday. He's 34 years old. He's a third baseman. He had 35 homers, drove in 101 runs last year. Retired. Somebody was going to offer him $15+ million for a year or two to continue playing. I mean, that's how many people walk away from that. And he didn't want to play anywhere else. Seattle wasn't bringing him back and all that. But, I mean, how many of us would be like, no, I'm good. I had a nice 11-year career. I'm good. I mean, no offense. I'm leaving $30 million guaranteed on the table here when this lockout ends. No, I'm playing.
Oh, I was going to answer somebody there, but
Gotcha.
oh my God.
Welcome back to Miller and Moulton, only on the Florida Sports Network.
"21 minutes past the hour. Seth Everett in about 15 minutes time. Miller and Moulton, the Florida Sports Network. The Florida Sports Network. Pat Kirwan to join us in a little over an hour. We'll get all our normal stuff in, the good, bad, and ugly. What's on tap today was the day when. We'll just do it in a little different order next hour. And then we will end with a bunch of NFL talk. I don't know if, we've talked to Pat for over 10 years. And we have probably had Pat on the show 500 times, I would say. And probably more, but I'm
Probably more, but okay.
I did not realize this. Pat was involved in Madden.
Yeah. He's talked about it on our show.
I missed it.
Yeah, he goes into Orlando and designs plays for Madden.
I know. I heard it yesterday. And
when do you space out?
I missed it.
That explains how much David hates video games. Right there, because I'm not joking. He's talked about it on this show a bare minimum of 20 times.
I'll block those out,
Because remember, we used to have a guy on the other side of the glass who lived for Madden.
No, I know. The
last time he played it, he rage quit against my, at that time, 12 or 13-year-old son.
Yeah, which is not surprising.
No.
But listen, I paid apt attention the other 480 times. I'm telling you. But I was like, I'll be damned. Wonder if Mark knew.
Yeah, we discussed trying to get my son an internship with EA Sports. That's how much I know that it worked for them.
I'll be damned.
Are you kidding me?
I should really pay closer attention to the show.
I thought it was just me that spaced out when the other guy was talking.
No. When you have co-hosts, it's real easy to space out. You ask your question, you realize, wow, we got an answer, then another question, and then another answer. I mean,
I got to pick this up halfway through the answer to figure out what my next question is.
Trying to figure, can I get a Starbucks in time by the time it's my turn to talk?
Well, it's not Brando.
No, that's true. I mean, if it was Brando, then you could.
Was the guest that you want when you're hosting a show alone?
We should come up with a new nickname for Brando. We should just call him Stairway. Okay, because when you ask Brando a question, his answer is kind of like playing Stairway to Heaven.
Hell, he's more Inagata-Vita than he is Stairway to Heaven, but I see the point you're getting to there.
So it's like smoke him if you got him.
Yep. There's no doubt there.
But, so yeah, Pat Kirwan in a little more than an hour, and I guess I won't bring it up because it's been brought up 20 times before, but I did not realize that Pat Kirwan went to Orlando and worked on plays for the Madden video game.
When did you find this out?
yesterday afternoon at about 3:10, listening to his show. Because the news of Madden's passing broke just after their show ended. It broke a little after 7 o'clock Eastern. So I knew that Pat and his co-host Jim Miller had not had a chance to talk about it. So I really wanted to listen to the monologue, figuring, well, they've got to address this. And obviously they did. And then, Pat started talking, and I was like, I'll be damned. That's interesting information. Wish I knew that. I've never heard that before. And apparently I have, and have just blocked it out. Pat told a fascinating story, though, in which he was at an international football game and conference. People from all over the world. Young players. And Pat insisted that the kids, instead of, the Americans sit at their tables and, that they one player from each country to all sit at every table. Pat wanted the kids to have to mingle. And when people said, well, we're going to have a language barrier here, it's going to be a problem. And Pat said, there's some video games on the table. And Pat said the room lit up. All right. It worked. It was great. All right. Jim Miller talked about when he would go over and make trips on behalf of the armed forces. And when the U.S. were trying to, whether it's the Afghans or the Iraqis or whoever it is that they were trying to communicate with, they oftentimes, the connection was an American video game. And that's where they started the level of communication. And oftentimes, Jim said it was Madden. So there you go. I won't bring that up because apparently it's been talked about before.
Well, yes. That was the one thing that Pat has always talked about, that they actually put real plays in the game that are used by those teams, and that it is very realistic from that standpoint. And Pat has also talked about that all the computer programmers at EA Sports know nothing about football and how painful some of those things have been.
So apparently it was riveting. I hope that you enjoyed our conversations with Pat over the years about it. I won't take us down memory lane.
Our poll question today is very simple.
It's also riveting and very entertaining.
It just simply says, I put a deposit on a new car November 30th. I still don't have said car. When do you think I will get my vehicle? Quick update for you. Just got a text message from the salesperson at the dealership who said, I checked again this morning and they are still waiting for available transport.
Please tell me that you said that my car has now become the poll question on our show.
No.
Oh, come on. Give me your phone. Can you mind?
Knock yourself out.
Okay, good.
Because simply hasn't been sold to someone else.
And he did say, no, it's been held for you.
That's what they're saying. I don't buy it at all.
Apparently you and 20 others are totally, they're sitting in Tampa. Once again, here's the deal. What do you say we go up? We take a drive.
You understand I've offered that.
I mean, here's what I don't understand. The vehicle has to make it back to their lot. We can drive it back to their lot. We can do the official sale on the lot. I mean, obviously, what are we going to do? Run off with the car? We want the car. Okay?
This is when it gets painful. This is when it gets hard. This is when the poll question isn't as funny as it was a moment ago.
Oh, no, it's funny.
I know to you.
Don't kid yourself. No, it's funny to you too. It's funny to you too. That's why we went with it. If you didn't think it was so damn funny, you wouldn't have posted it because you're the one that posts the bowl questions.
Super Bowl Sunday is when you all think I'm getting my car.
God, that is spectacular. Spectacular. That's February 13th.
We have had one person that thinks it's going to show up tomorrow.
Unbelievable.
What?
Is that the sales rep? Did he vote? Is that when he said?
I doubt he's on Twitter.
Well,
Seth.
All right. I got to text this guy back.
He's also on Twitch, and he will join us on the other side.
So you know.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
He has my phone. He is now texting my salesman.
Our poll question is...
We're going to get to break. Thanks for listening to the Florida Sports Network.
When will I get my car?
It's been a great start to the NFL season, and it's only getting better at DraftKings, the official daily fantasy partner of the NFL. DraftKings is putting new customers in the the action with a free shot at millions of dollars in total prizes. Get in on the action now. It's simple. Just pick your lineup, stay under the salary cap, and see how your team stacks
You
up
guys hear me?
competition. Feel the NFL action like never before with a free shot at
Can
millions
you hear me?
in total prizes. DraftKings is safe, secure, and reliable. And the best part is you can deposit
Can you
and withdraw
hear me?
your cash whenever you want. Download the DraftKings app now and use code M&M. This week, new customers can get a free shot at millions of dollars in total prizes. Enter code M&M to get a free shot at millions in total prizes with your first deposit. That's code M&M. Only at DraftKings, the official daily fantasy partner of the NFL. Minimum $5 deposit required. Eligibility restrictions apply. See DraftKings.com for details.
You were listening to Miller and Moulton on the Florida Sports Network.
Can you hear
That's
me?
terrible.
Seth, you think we sound overmodulated?
Yeah. You guys are popping in and out.
I can't hear Seth right now. Can you give me the computer? Hold on. What? Who was saying that we do?
Seth.
You there, Seth?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
You guys good?
Yeah, we're good.
No. Well, first of all, David, you sound sick, but I think that's known. I haven't heard the show yet this week.
Yeah.
'Cause okay.
Yeah.
That's okay. But you guys both together sound overmodulated. It's not volume. It's just like you're popping. And then when you guys raise your voice a little bit just now in your little car thing, Mark was like coming in and out. Like I had trouble hearing him.
So
I don't know if the
are we
audience can
sending
hear
it too loudly to the computer. Whatever we're sending, the return feed back to this computer, possibly. Because it's not a radio problem; it's a Twitch problem.
That's what I figured, and it's no big deal if the audience doesn't mind. I just didn't want you guys to be, I was trying to help. That's all.
No,
I
appreciate
don't
it.
think there's a way to adjust that I know of.
Right.
Okay. That and for your Twitch people, fantastic new T-shirt.
Wait, what?
Fantastic new T-shirt model.
Oh, okay.
Got it in the mail yesterday. And I have a great Madden story.
Good.
Great.
So does everybody, but rather than ask me about Kyle Seager.
No, I already gave my 2 cents on that. We're good.
I gave about a penny and a half, and I could give a crap. He got there after I left. Never met him. Seems like a nice chap. See ya.
All right, that's the speaker, so that's nothing. That's just how I'm hearing Seth.
And Seth, what you noticed about Mark, in which occasionally Mark starts cutting in and out, that's been an all-week thing.
It's not been an all-week thing. It's been month upon month thing. Seth, would you have any clue on the computer where I would tone that down? When I hit microphone, nothing's there's not like a
no.
And this is a pile of crap. I mean, everything about this studio is a pile.
Yeah, I have a feeling it's one of the volume settings, but there's like so many. One of the volume settings is just popped up.
Yeah, because when I go to settings and microphone, there isn't even really a system.
I don't know. I clicked in 10 minutes early just to hear you
That
guys.
is going to everything else. So.
Ooh, hang on. Here we go. Wait a minute. That's speakers. No, that's test your microphone line in real time.
And Florida is officially bizarro world.
Officially?
Oh my god.
See if that's any better. I don't know.
Okay. Yeah, well, when we get into the show, we can.
Yeah, I lowered our output a little bit off of this computer to see if that may help.
Well, and Sonny, I will say this, commercials are usually played for whatever reason louder. So I would think that the commercials would be even more problematic.
Yeah.
But what do I know?
I don't know.
Seth, I don't know if you saw the comment. I watched the Venom movie yesterday. So bad.
Oh, it's awful. That's horrible. But whoever did that, I hope sees this T-shirt. This is a tremendous, tremendous score.
Your Avengers T-shirt?
It's not an Avengers T-shirt. In the show Hawkeye, it's 10 years since the Avengers movie, and there's now a Broadway show called Rogers the Musical. And it's the funniest part of Hawkeye, and this shirt is Rogers the Musical.
Gotcha. Okay.
It's like the billboard that hangs over the theater. Oh, it's tremendous. So yes, at first glance, it looks like your typical Avengers shirt.
Welcome back to Miller and Moulton, only on the Florida Sports Network.
The home stretch of Miller and Moulton, particularly for those in the Tampa-St. Pete area, since this is our final show of 2021. We are taking tomorrow off. The bonus hour for those of you in the 239 coming up, in which Pat Kirwan will join us on the show. Seth Everett normally joins us at this time on Wednesdays, but his schedule is such that he joins us at this time on Thursday. Seth, he of the three great podcasts, Sports with Friends, Hall of Justice, and Tech Stream. A belated merry and happy and an early happy to you, Seth. How are you?
Good to talk to you, my friends. It's good to be on in Florida after being in Florida. Just got back from the Sunshine State. What an interesting place you guys have there.
Well, you know, people in Florida think that about where you live.
I mean, we think that about the rest of the world these days.
Yeah, I understand. I literally felt like I was in the Twilight Zone a couple times, but it was gorgeous weather, gorgeous weather. But my wife, 2 kids, and dog are stuck in Florida because 2 of their flights home have been canceled.
It is interesting with all that going on. You know, my mother-in-law just left and she flew down on Spirit, and swore to never do so again after Thanksgiving. We'd already bought the tickets. And I, when she left yesterday, I said to my wife, I said, you know, all she did was complain about Spirit. Thank God she was on it, because it was the only airline that didn't cancel every damn flight that was going out of here.
The fact that I'm in this studio is a miracle. I kept waiting for the text message. She got the text message, you know, I had to work today, so I came home a day early. They are stuck there till Saturday. And
that's terrible for them. I mean, to have to be in Florida where it's 80 degrees and beautiful.
Well, they're lucky. They're lucky. They don't have to have a hotel. They don't have to rent a car. That, you know, they're very lucky. But you know, they got school and work and things like that. Now that's becoming an issue. Traveling in this is not a Florida thing. Traveling in the United States right now, Mark, David, I don't know how you did the football schedule that you did and not have tons and tons of cancellations. The lines of people that are literally just stranded in airports is absurd.
Yeah. And also, there's no method to the madness in terms of stay away from this airline, stay away from that airline.
Oh, no, it's not an airline. It's not a state thing. It's not,
right.
It's nothing.
And knock on wood, you know, I made it to and from Green Bay with no problems going through Chicago, and I'm going to try to get to and from El Paso going through Dallas. Yeah. And so far, nothing's been canceled. We'll see.
Good luck.
Yeah, we'll see. It's 9 hours from Dallas to El Paso. It's a 9-hour drive. So if I can just get to Dallas, I can do my whole week's work.
Well, and you had mentioned you guys get out of El Paso pretty quickly after the game.
We're going to try.
And there's a lot of you on that flight.
Yes.
I think the bigger concern is getting home as opposed to getting there. And that's what's now getting to your destination seems to be okay. But when you get there, getting back home can be a problem.
No, and you know, you have medications that now you have to call drugstores. It's a real pain. It's, you know, people say, oh, yeah, let's have another pina colada. It's not that simple.
But it is. I mean, it's just simply, may I have another pina colada? I mean, I don't know. In Florida, that's never a problem,
right.
Seth.
Seth, You
I mean, we're
should
not
have
Louisiana.
us.
We don't have drive-through, but it's damn
Just
close.
lob this stuff. Yeah,
Right.
literally. I'm just throwing softballs now.
Seth, I know that we called you to bring you on our show, but you were coming to Florida. You really should have called us. Whether it
I
was a
should've.
formal interview or not, we really could have helped.
Yeah, if I was anywhere near Fort Myers, you would have known.
All right. The passing of John Madden. I'm just curious, in your 25 years in the industry, sports with friends, you've talked to many a person in your podcast. You've interviewed many a person. Do you have a Madden story?
I do, and it's actually the very, very beginning of my career, and it's something I talk to students about all the time because there was a way to bond with players when you're a young reporter, and Madden was our way. When I got the gig, my first NFL job, my first major job was covering the Denver Broncos. John Elway was 37, I was 23. He did not have 1 minute for me. He was never rude to me. He was always nice, but he and I weren't friends. I was scared out of my mind to interview any player. I never got a one-on-one until I think week 6. But around week 8 or 9, I overheard Alfred Williams, Tyrone Braxton, and a bunch of the Denver Broncos talking about Madden 97. And I had the gumption, I had the courage to go up to these giant people and say, "Wait, are you guys talking about Madden, the video game?" And they were like, "Yeah." And we started a conversation, and it morphed by the end of that season into a league where we invited members of the front office, other members of the media, players. We had a Madden league in 1997, the year they went to the Super Bowl. Our Super Bowl had to be postponed because they went to the Super Bowl. The friendships that I built eventually led to me being invited to a float in the Denver Broncos Super Bowl 32 parade with the guys from the Madden League. We had all the Madden people on the float. And when that happened, I got noticed by a bunch of radio stations, including Seattle. And that's how I got the initial introduction to move to Seattle. So literally, it was overhearing them say the word Madden that started my career.
So, Seth, our poll question today or yesterday.
No, you're not getting that car.
No, the poll question yesterday was, how do you remember Madden? Coach, broadcaster, or video game? Is it
broadcaster? Hands down, broadcaster. The Madden game, I'm a gamer, so I played the Madden game for years. But the Madden game sounded like John Madden's broadcasting. So even if the game is your connection, see, the younger generation, John Madden stopped doing the voice on the game, 10 years ago, 10, 15 years ago. I don't even know the year he stopped. And so now when you play the Madden game, it's literally just his name. You don't see him. You don't see an image of him. You don't hear him at all. It's literally just two other announcers. I think Chris Collinsworth does it. I haven't played in a couple of years, but the reality of the game is the connection to the game is only because of the broadcaster. What my generation has no recollection of is his coaching. I don't know him as a coach. I don't think of him as a coach. Him and Pat Summerall literally are the sound of football that I crave. And the clips that have been on Twitter since John Madden's passing have just been such joy.
It's interesting that you say it's what you crave. Okay, because Pat Summerall would have a tough time getting hired today.
I know. I know.
I mean, we talked about this. Howard Cosell never would be hired.
Never.
Today.
No,
Never.
I completely agree. And the argument, this is not a knock on today's broadcasters. Ian Eagle to me is the best broadcaster of the NFL. And that's not to say Joe Buck stinks. He's great. Jim Nantz is great. Ian Eagle to me is the best. But what Pat Summerall's voice did, it felt like Giants, Eagles every time. It always just felt like it was the NFL. It felt like NFL Films was being broadcast live. It was perfect. And it's what you remember as a child. It's what Vin Scully and Joe Garagiola mean to baseball. But Pat Summerall and John Madden together. When John Madden went to NBC, it was different. It's not the same thing. Pat Summerall was connected to John Madden.
Well, and even when they went to Fox, I think one of the fun things throughout all of this is when you go look up in Google Pat Summerall's Fox calls of the shows, of all of the shows that never made it on Fox. And I saw a lot of it because the CBS, I mean, we all still know. Tonight after 60 Minutes, another episode of Murder, She Wrote. I mean, we all knew what Pat Summerall was going to say, and that's why the
on the
Fox
West Coast
was so great when he's cluing in the Simpsons and all of those things. But you're right. I mean, it's multi-generational, and I, for you guys, for the two of you being New York, New Jersey guys, that it's Giants, Eagles. To me it was the Redskins, Cowboys.
Yeah,
because that's what seemed to be
Same
on
thing.
every week to me.
Yep, same thing.
You mentioned Scully. Madden partnered with Scully early on. He partnered with about 5 to 6 different guys. He did, 2 or 3 games with a bunch of people. And then they decided after the 1980 season, they were breaking up Summerall and Brookshire.
Yep.
And they were going to make Madden. They decided Madden was going to be the number 1 analyst, but they were debating Summerall or Vin Scully.
Yep.
And ultimately, some CBS executive thought Scully was too talkative. Or the word that was used was chatty.
Wait, the guy who did tens and thousands of baseball games by himself with no analyst was too talkative?
Right.
Wow,
Yes,
shocking.
Yes, exactly. He was too chatty to work with Madden, so they went with Summerall. It was a good call.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Vin Scully was on NFL Network. My buddy, a guy I graduated with, Andrew Siciliano, interviewed Scully about working with Madden. It's a great clip, and I just retweeted it about 20 minutes ago.
I don't. Do you want to ask your baseball question of the week and get that out of the way?
No, I don't have a baseball question.
Don't bother.
I don't have a baseball question. I'm good.
All right. I have a hockey question, Seth.
Okay.
What's this league going to do? They keep, they're very inconsistent with what they want to be. The NBA has said we're going to finish the league, play with 8 players. I don't give a damn. The NFL said we're going to trudge through this. The NHL hasn't really made their mind up of exactly what they want to do. They want to finish the season. They're not sure how to finish the season. The goalposts keep moving on this thing, Seth. We're not very consistent. And it seems that hockey, they've got 3 weeks during the now Olympic break. That's not a break to try to make this up. But they are running out of time to get this season done on time, Seth.
They are. And, the interesting part that I have seen so far is this idea of taxi squads is very difficult with the American Hockey League personnel, because what you're seeing is the top 2 or 3 players on each AHL team are now on taxi squads because of potential COVID outbreaks. I would say, I understand why they're doing it. My thing with hockey is, in the beginning, they were inconsistent because of all the times, and we talked about this last week when I was on, all the times where teams were taking the ice with less than the right amount of players. To me, that's a reason for postponement or cancellation, whatever it is. I'm hopeful that they're going to figure it out. I think that it's going to be some wonky scheduling because the buildings are not going to be available. Just because the hockey teams were on break doesn't mean these buildings weren't trying to make money.
Bingo.
And everybody's trying to make money, and that's the whole idea. This Canadian aspect of eliminating fans is really hurting their bottom line. And what they're trying to do is reschedule a bunch of the Canadian teams to have their home games later, when hopefully something subsides. I don't know what it was in Florida. All I know about Florida was I was looked very weird anytime I had a mask on. The New Jersey numbers are breaking records. It's 20,000 cases yesterday. Now, it's not as severe. It's not as serious. No, the hospitalizations is what we should be looking at. I get all that. What I'm just saying is, for the sport, if this new rule about the only 5 days for quarantine impacts the NHL in a positive way, I think they can pull it off. If they have another hiccup where the month of January looks as ugly as December did, they're in trouble.
Well, and I don't know if anyone's a quote unquote expert on this anymore, but the medical people think January is going to be worse, that it will peak in January. All right. Now, the NHL does have that 17, 18-day period in February, in which, if we're on the downside of the curve, in theory, they could reschedule a bunch of games, but they may not be able to reschedule them in their home arenas.
I know this. I'm not going to any sporting events until the numbers go down. I'm done. And if Army Navy was this weekend, I wouldn't be there.
Really? Because it was outdoors, Seth. Now, granted, you had to sit indoors.
80,000 people.
Yeah, but
nobody had a mask.
Yeah,
No,
but it's
I wouldn't
outdoors.
have done it.
Yeah, and Seth, I'll just go back to what you just stated. It's not as severe. People aren't getting hospitalized. I don't know. I mean, you and I are on different sides. I would have walked into a hockey game last night. I'll walk into one tomorrow. I'll go to the.
No, I was invited. New Year's Eve. The Devils have a home game against Edmonton. I've never seen Connor McDavid in person. I'll watch it on TV.
He's Seth Everett, Sports with Friends, Hall of Justice, and Tech Stream, or his 3 great podcasts. All right, you can follow him on Twitter at Seth_Everett. By the way, very quickly, Madden as a video game, you're a gamer. All right. Was it in comparison to other games? We know that and FIFA are the 2 best-selling sports video games. But was it an elite game? Is it an elite video game?
It's far superior. It's literally like playing in the NFL. You simulate everything. My only issue with the game is I like FIFA and the NHL game because of the constant play, the constant flow, the stopping for plays and substitutions and all the deciding run, pass, this, that. It's just, that's not my mentality, but I'm also 47. I'm not the current gamer. I love FIFA because to me, FIFA is like relaxing and NHL is fun as crap. It's both those. The EA Sports people do an amazing job. And I don't care about Pat Kirwan saying that the people in the place didn't know anything about that. My wife used to work for Marvel, and they didn't know what Wolverine's powers were. It doesn't matter. They do good work.
Huh. That's an interesting take there, Seth. Because, Madden's whole philosophy in broadcasting was the more the cameraman knew, the better the broadcast would be, for what it's worth. But sure. I'm with you on playing the games because anytime we can sit down and play a little NHL, Seth, I'm in every day.
The best.
Sports with Friends, Hall of Justice, Tech Stream. Is this rerun city for you this week?
No way, man. No way. We did all new episodes. The only thing we switched because of my trip, one of my commercials couldn't get recorded in time. So Sports with Friends comes out tomorrow and Hall of Justice came out today. We switched them this week. Tech Stream is all set. It's the year in review in tech. Hall of Justice was really fun. It was the Hawkeye review. So a lot of people were saying, why didn't we do Hawkeye last week? We did it because of Spider-Man. Hawkeye came out a day early. And Sports with Friends, I have a 4-year tradition, which if you want, I'll explain in your break to your Twitch audience. 2 Jews hanging out on Christmas. 4 years in a row. Scott Seidenberg, now with VSiN, used to be with NBC. He and I have done that podcast every Christmas now for 4 years. 2 Jews hanging out on Christmas is Sports with Friends. It comes out later today.
I do want to get in during the break and want to know what Chinese food you had while doing said podcast. That is one of the important parts.
There was Chinese food involved.
Thanks as always.
Not surprising, Seth. Seth, hold on so we could talk during the break. But Seth Everett, and by the way, Happy New Year to you and yours.
Happy New Year to everyone safe and a very prosperous 2022 for all.
Seth, what happens first? You get your family back from Florida or Mark gets his car?
Family.
Oh, I was going to go car, but I'll take family now.
Seth Everett, kind enough to join us once again here on Miller and Moulton. For those in the Tampa-St. Pete area, hey, thanks so much for supporting this show. We're obviously 10, 11 weeks ago, new. You were like, what the heck is this? Well, we talk sports in the morning and try to have fun with it. And we are 6 to 9 in Tampa-St. Pete. We are 6 to 10 in Fort Myers, Naples. And we're led to believe we'll be in other places coming up after the first of the year. But thanks so much for your support.
And sometimes on Twitch, we're on for 24 straight hours because some idiot forgets to turn the button off.
It didn't hurt our numbers too badly.
No, not at all.
No.
Kirwan coming up in our final hour of 2021. The good, the bad, and the ugly. Today was the day when what's on tap will all be fit in, albeit in a different order. Thank you so much for listening. As David said, Tampa St. Pete, we thank you for taking us in your cars and homes and look forward to talking to you in 2022. Miller and Moulton, right here on the Florida Sports Network.
Bring your big mouth to John Smith Subs and indulge in their overstuffed subs with the freshest quality ingredients. Enjoy our famous steak bomb with perfectly grilled marinated sirloin steak topped with provolone cheese, grilled onions, peppers, mushrooms, crispy bacon, juicy tomatoes, and creamy mayo. Boom! Made-to-order crispy fries can be paired with the Gator, the Cuban, the Chicken Bomb, or the Italian. Love local. Eat delicious with John Smith Subs. Find
Can you hear me?
You know, you guys telling me all these things that you're waiting for does not make this any happier for me, but I do want to hear about Two Jews on Christmas.
So 4 years ago, Sports with Friends came out on Tuesdays, and Christmas came on a Tuesday. And I thought because it was Christmas, I skipped an episode. And I had a sponsor that there was a clause in the contract that said we would void their payment. They wouldn't have to pay us. Can you guys not hear me?
We can
Yeah,
hear
we
you.
can hear you.
Oh, okay. So he was like, Christmas Eve, I got a phone call, and they were like, put something together, anything together, get it together. I called every Jew I knew. The second Jew that answered his phone was this guy, Scott. He was with NBC at the time. And I said, can you just talk to me about sports for a half an hour? And I couldn't think of a title. So I literally just made it Two Jews Hanging Out on Christmas. When we got the 2017 numbers, that was one of the highest downloaded podcasts. People love the title. The next year, we moved Sports with Friends to Wednesdays, and then Christmas fell on a Wednesday again. And so we did the same thing again, and we called it Volume 2. And now Sports with Friends doesn't fall on Christmas Day, but on Christmas Day, we record it, and it always comes out the episode after Christmas. And we're 4 years running, and we're going to do it every time. And chicken chow fun was the dish of choice.
Outstanding. Where's so is your family with family?
Yeah, they're with my mother-in-law. So like, there were people at the airport that were like, where are we going to go? Like they were planning on sleeping at the airport. That's a hardship. My family doesn't have that.
Right.
My wife is nervous because she has to
has an
call all her
inconvenience.
doctors. No. She has to call her doctor. She needs this medicine because, she has stuff and she needs it like now. And the kids have school and, she has a job and she doesn't have her computer and she doesn't have anything down there. And so she's stressed. She's a stress case.
Yeah.
But I get 2 days of peace and quiet. So it's pretty good.
Well, enjoy your New Year's Eve, perhaps alone watching.
My New Year's Eve, I have a 4 a.m. the next day. My New Year's Eve will be over at 9:15, obviously. Those college football games could happen, and literally a guy could die on the field. I won't know until the next morning.
Been there. I understand. That's called every Monday night football game that happens for me, Seth.
Understood. But if I don't have the kids to celebrate the New Year, that's tremendous. They're too old now for the Netflix things. Netflix puts these like cartoons out where they do fake countdowns. And
They do?
Oh yeah.
Okay.
And what you do is they're like 10-minute videos, and you put them on, and it's like some character they know. And then at the end of it, they count down. They go, "Hey, it's 2022."
Yeah, I don't think that's going to work for my 7-year-old daughter.
Yeah, no, the kids are too old for that now.
She's too smart for that.
But it was brilliant in its day.
All right. I will tell you just quickly, Seth, to tell you the difference. Like our producer has COVID right now. He's not working here right now. He'll be back next week. He went home for Christmas and got it.
Yeah,
Girl that's doing some work for my wife and I in our house. Because I texted her yesterday. I said, "Hey, what's going on with my shelving?" And she's like, "Oh man, sorry, got the cocoa." I mean, that was literally the text. Got the cocoa at Christmas.
That's funny.
Right.
That's funny.
It is. Hey, Happy New Year, man.
Happy New Year, guys. You're the best.
Thanks
you guys
for
are
Thanks
the
for everything,
absolute
Seth.
freaking best. I'll see you guys.
All right, man.
All right. Be good.
Ooh, it was a big morning. He had to go 0 on us.
I did.
And while I never tested positive for it, I am pretty certain I had it because I lost smell for 4 days back in May of 2020. I think that's right. I don't even know anymore.
Wonder if David knows we're 30 seconds out. Do you know where he went?
Rinse his cup out. I have no idea what he just did.
It is the bonus hour of Miller and Moulton on the Florida Sports Network. The Florida Sports Network. It's our final hour of the day, end of the week. We are taking tomorrow off. Alabama, Cincinnati tomorrow afternoon. Michigan, Georgia tomorrow night. The national semifinals on New Year's Eve once again, which is ridiculous. All because of the damn Rose Bowl. That is my hope more than anything.
Boy, oh boy, I'm with you there.
Okay, more than the 12-team playoff and everybody getting their shot and this, that, and the other thing. I just want the Rose Bowl put in its place. Sorry. Times have changed. You had a great run. And I get why you want what you want. And supposedly they've hired some heavy hitters to lobby on their behalf in that room in Indianapolis. Fine. But times have changed. There's too much money at stake here. All right. If I'm ESPN, Fox, CBS, NBC, Amazon, whoever the heck is going to get involved in this sport to televise this playoff going forward, I need these games seen by the most people. The sport needs these games seen by the most people. And having the number one team in the country with the Heisman Trophy winner playing at 3:30 in the afternoon on New Year's Eve on a Friday is bat blank crazy.
It's the dumbest thing I've ever seen. I'm Big Ten born and bred, and I think this is ridiculous. What is the biggest day of the year for college football? January the 1st.
There you go, Mark.
It happened since 1935. And the played longer than that, but that's when all the bowls came in. It is the day for college football. And the fact that the Rose Bowl is holding this sport hostage is ridiculous.
Well,
David, you do TV numbers a lot better than I do.
mm-hmm.
What is the difference? Because I think these games will do really well. Michigan, Georgia could do a really nice number, but what's the difference? 2 million, 4 million? What's the difference between if this game was played 24 hours later?
Oh, my goodness. Even though Saturday night's the worst night of the week, but because Friday night's New Year's Eve, oh, Mark, a minimum of 4 million per game. Minimum.
Now, think about that. And, you know, I've had people say in the Twitch chat room, well, it shouldn't all be about the money. Well, maybe it shouldn't, but it is. We're not doing this for blanks and giggles here. We're doing this for money. ESPN spends the money because they want viewership. And the Rose Bowl was able to tell ESPN, we're going to continue to play, and ESPN just had to cow down last time. They won't this time. There's going to be multiple networks involved.
And as RCB asks in the Twitch chat room, how does the Rose Bowl get away with it? Because the powers that be in college football allow them to.
And the last agreement, the Big Ten and particularly the Pac-12 had more power when this agreement was put together for the playoff. They don't have the power they once had.
And Arch makes the point, why should the Rose Bowl give up the time slot? They don't have to. My feeling is if you're college football, you just schedule around it. You could say to the Rose Bowl, you want to play at 5 o'clock on New Year's Day? That's fine. We're going to have Alabama, Cincinnati going directly head to head with you.
And, oh, yeah, by the way, you're out of the semifinal business.
And
threaten them with. That's what I would do.
And by the way, your game is not going to be on ABC/ESPN. It's going to be on the Deuce. Check your contract. We're allowed to do it. As long as it's on the ESPN family and networks, we're good. Your sponsors are going to love that, by the way. Absolutely love that.
But we'll be sure to get that parade on NBC at
9 a.m.
Right.
Yeah. Got to run the parade. Mm-hmm. So that's what it's all about. And that, to me, is as big an issue as anything they're going to discuss coming up in a week and a half in Indianapolis. And we're not joking, by the way. It's a big deal. Big deal. And the Rose Bowl has got heavy hitters to lobby on their behalf.
David, you may crush me. This may be a bad comparison, but for the longest time, David, you didn't begin working with CBS on college football till the third week of the season.
Right.
Because the U.S. Open, being in New York City, had that much power at CBS.
Right. And they had all their resources dedicated to it. And so the first couple weekends of September, they were committed to U.S. Open tennis. And they said to the SEC, now remember, when they put the SEC on nationally in the mid-90s, most people thought they were crazy to do so. But as the SEC got more and more popular, CBS said, yeah, I don't know what to tell you. The tournament's not moving. Now, in the 20-teens, tennis became less popular. The football actually became more popular. CBS said to ESPN, if you want to buy us out of the tennis, we're good. And they did.
But also with that going on, it was probably for sure 2 years, if not 4 years, when they were running tennis matches when they really shouldn't have been. That really, it didn't justify the ratings that they were getting with college football versus tennis. But the U.S. Open still had a lot of power in New York City with the CBS executives. They didn't want to give up a property that they had had for a long, long time.
Right.
There was tradition there.
Yeah.
And finally they caved. And that's why I said, I don't know if it's a great comparison, David, but that's the one that I keep thinking about with this. At some point, college football's got to look at the Rose Bowl and say, I don't give a damn.
Now, right now, part of the reason that the Rose Bowl is able to get away with it is there's only one network broadcasting all of these games. And the Rose Bowl is obviously on that network. If they open this up to other networks, aka the NFL model, they will make a ton more money, and B, maybe the Rose Bowl stays at 5 o'clock on New Year's Day, but there's a strong likelihood that there's going to be competition up against it. I mean, if you're a power player in college football, how can you not watch what the NFL has done here over the last however many years and just say, hey, we don't have to surrender blank to the Rose Bowl. We'll put a national semifinal up against it. You know what will happen? People will watch the semifinal, and the Rose Bowl will move their game. You don't believe me? Take a look at everything the NFL's done. The NBA owned Christmas until last year. Now it's an afterthought. Remember when college football thought we'd all change our viewing habits on New Year's Eve and watch the playoff?
We're not.
No.
We're not. The numbers will be bad compared to what they would be on New Year's Day.
Alabama, Cincinnati will not do a great number. Now,
the only way if Cincinnati's got a game going on,
if they're winning
3-point game, second half, then the second half number will be through the roof. But remember, for half the country, this game's starting at 12:30. I know it's not a lot of households, but on the West Coast, who doesn't watch college football, you're really giving them a lot of incentive to do so. Kick it off at noon on New Year's Eve day.
So
it's ridiculous.
We talked earlier in the show, with this being our last show of 2021, just some of the things that we are looking forward to and or predicting to happen in 2022. I don't know if we have the guts to predict that the Rose Bowl will actually lose in the negotiations, but I know it is our hope that they do.
All right. Does Tiger play in a major this year?
Yes. St. Andrews.
Hope you're right.
Yeah, I think he can do it. It's flat. And I think he'll take painkillers if he needs to. I think, and I was not saying that to be flippant, I think it means enough to him. You know, he's 1-2 there. He knows his place in the game. He turns 46 today. He knows he's on borrowed time. I think physically, if he can remotely do it, he will do it.
How many playoff teams will there be in the postseason in baseball this year when it all gets settled, David?
Oh, wow.
I mean, your little couple predictions. I had a couple things in my head wanted to throw at you. And I like when I can catch you a little bit by surprise with a baseball question.
I think there'll be 12. I think they'll go to what was the old NFL playoff format. I think the 1 and 2 seeds will get byes. I think 3 will play 6, 4 will play 5 in a short series. That'll be the compromise. I mean, these guys are agreeing on nothing right now. Absolutely nothing. They both want the DH universally. Can't sit down and agree because the owners don't want to give the players a win.
And when is first pitch of the 2022 season?
Ooh, that's a great question. It's a great question. You know, I'm still listening to MLB Network Radio, you know.
I know. Are they acknowledging that there is a lockout?
Yes.
Okay.
No, this is
unlike
not
TV,
right.
Who did not acknowledge the strike.
Correct.
Didn't cover it.
No. It's funny. There are a lot of people in the game that think that this really could be settled in 3 days behind closed doors. All right. The big problem very quickly is there's no denying the fact that revenues in the sport and spending in the sport spending in the sport is where it was about 5-6 years ago. So in this case, you do have to understand the players looking at the owners going, there's more money in the game than ever before. You're spending as if we're working on 2015 budgets. What the heck? Are you serious? Come on now.
Well, they've colluded to not pay the players.
Totally. And the luxury tax is turned out to be a salary cap. Everything that the players have not wanted, they would never agree to a salary cap. Well, the luxury tax, for all intents and purposes, is a salary cap because only one team went over it last year, the Dodgers. Right. And right now there's only 2 that are over it, the Dodgers and Mets. Although I guess technically San Diego may have been like $4 over it last year, but you know what I mean.
All right.
So your question.
Opening day is
May 1st. Spring training.
So we miss
spring training will be an absolute disaster.
So we miss a month.
Yeah. 144 games will be my prediction. And they may even do 7-inning doubleheaders for one more year because of it, because they got to jam in games.
Boy, I hate the 7-inning doubleheader.
I love the 7-inning doubleheader. Absolutely love it. I think, in fact, it's so good it makes the argument maybe baseball should only be 7 innings. Reduce the number of pitchers on a roster. Actually have a starting pitcher who
could finish a game.
Yeah, now you complete.
I can give him the ball in the 7th.
I mean,
that's a radical change you're proposing right there, sir.
Come on now. I know it is. He's a baseball guy too. That isn't Miller saying they should go to 7 innings, which he's probably. I don't like a 9-inning game and a 7-inning doubleheader. I do think, by the way, the most radical change to baseball, whether it goes into effect immediately or it goes into effect 1 year from now, I think that they're going to get a clock. They're going to get a pitch clock. They're going to get a clock. Baseball's never had a clock, ever. They're going to get a clock, and I'm all for it. Manfred's right. It's working in the minors.
Boy, and if it was a cuckoo clock, it would even be better instead of a buzzer.
Miller and Moulton. Pat Kirwan coming up near the bottom of the hour. I think a cuckoo clock, center field, right center field, maybe not in the batter's eye, but just off of it. And all of a sudden, cuckoo.
I like it behind home plate a little bit more.
Really?
Yeah, popping right out of the screen.
So you want it to be more like a mascot then?
I'm okay with that.
Miller and Moulton, the Florida Sports Network.
Mark Miller for Orange Whip Golf and Fitness Power Peel at Home Training System. This complete body and swing trainer uses resistance band connection system to fix bad habits and ingrain a more consistent, powerful swing. The Power Peel system is powered by functional golf swing training technology. It trains both your swing and body at the same time. Simply make a few prescribed resistant band connections, and in a few steps on the peel, you'll swing better, feel better, and play better. Use it before your round of warm-up, as your daily fitness routine, or anytime you want to feel and train the swing you've always
wanted. Pair the Power Peel with the Orange Whip Golf and Fitness at Home training technology, available with a monthly membership, and maximize your results with Golf Fitness X coach-led programs that take less than 20 minutes a day. Buy the Power Peel training bundle now for 4 interest-free payments of $115 by going to orangewhipgolf.com and use code Miller10. That's code Miller10 to save $45. Go to orangewhipgolf.com and use code Miller10 to save $45 and play better golf. Go to orangewhipgolf.com. You are listening to Miller and Moulton on the Florida Sports Network.
No, we knew that, Nick. I will say, when Twitch shrinks and puts in the ads, it looks good.
Oh. We get paid for those. Top stories on Wink News. Florida University leaders urge masks, booster shots. The story underneath should be Florida governor tells Florida University's leaders to go yourselves.
Should we do?
Yeah, we're gonna do them here. It's good, abbreviated.
We're gonna do.
Yeah, I told him.
Okay, good talk.
Come on, I need some good news here. I got nothing.
No. Now, I'm the wrong guy to ask because we don't make anything special on any day. But Mark, do you make anything special for New Year's Day?
No, I don't do the black eyed peas or anything like that.
No, it's.
Oh,
What update? They're interviewing Peterson today. Back to you.
Yeah.
What?
No, I think I already had that note, but still searching over here.
Thanks for listening. And now, more of Miller and Moulton on the Florida Sports Network.
Pat Kirwan to join us coming up in a dozen or so minutes. We will end the show in the week talking plenty of NFL. So we're moving things around in our 9 o'clock hour, which means now it is time for
Leave it to the oldest guy in the show, and definitely the oldest soul, to live in the past. Here's David Moulton with Today Was the Day When.
a lot of history today, some major birthdays today. We go back to 1460, Mark, War of the Roses today. It's when King Henry VI said, "I'm the new sheriff in town." Look it up if you don't know. Not a good day for the Duke of York. 1907, there was a lot of debate at the turn of the century who actually invented baseball. They had to have a commission, and it was called the Abraham Mills Commission. And on this date, 1907, they declared that Abner Doubleday invented baseball.
Boy, hate to finish second in that one.
Exactly. It's kind of like the Rangers with Lindros there.
Exactly the same thing.
You're right. 99 years ago today, the Soviet Union founded. How's that work?
It's worked out really well for everybody.
Not so much. The movie of Mice and Men was released on this date 82 years ago, 1939, starring Burgess Meredith. Look it up. 80 years ago today.
What?
A different movie, Mark.
Sorry.
Different movie. Cut me, Mick. Cut me. 80 years ago today, Churchill gives an emotional speech before the Canadian Parliament in which he said of Hitler and Nazi Germany, "They have asked for total war. Let's make sure they get it." He then took the famous roaring lion photo afterwards. 1950 on this date, 60-Minute Man, released by the Dominoes, and Patty Page's Tennessee Waltz, Mark, was number one on this date in 1950. Stayed number one for 9 weeks, the Tennessee Waltz.
It's a real toe tapper.
Yes, it is. On this day, 50
I think Fish covered it.
Right. On this day, 50 years ago, the Islanders came into existence. Guy wrote a check, and the NHL said, "Great, next year you can play." Where are we going here?
I don't know.
On this day in 1968, Sinatra first records "My Way." Big day in 1972, Nixon halts the bombing of North Vietnam and announces peace talks. Ohio State fired Woody Hayes. Last episode of A Wonderful World of Disney aired 41 years ago tonight on NBC. 40 years ago tonight, Stevie Wonder released That Girl. It was the song of the year in 82. And 5 years ago today, Ray Davies of the Kinks awarded knighthood by Queen Elizabeth II. Back to sports. I thought you'd like this one, Mark. Mike Shanahan fired by the Broncos on this day in 2008. 5 years later, Mike Shanahan of the Redskins fired. I mean, you just have to, for the rest of your life, get up on December 30th and go, "I just don't think today's going to be a good day."
When was that week 17 ever going to get here?
And it was just a year ago that Becky Hammon became the first woman to actually coach in the NBA. Pop got ejected in the second quarter of a loss to the Lakers, and she just quietly slid over and coached the team for the rest of the game. Sandy Koufax is 86 today. Tiger Woods is 46 today. LeBron James is 37 today. How about that for a big three of birthdays?
It's pretty good.
Koufax, Woods, LeBron.
Yeah, that'll work.
You could put that up against any other day out there.
I agree.
And Let's Make a Deal made its debut on this day on NBC. And the Beatles' Hello Goodbye was number one on this day.
The only omission I have for you, David, was today in 42. Sinatra performs as a solo act for the first time at the Paramount Theater in New York City.
Wow.
That's it.
I like it.
All right. That takes us seamlessly to
You've heard folks elsewhere mock Florida is gonna Florida. Well, Mark Miller sees it differently. He calls it the good, the bad, and the ugly. What you got, Mark?
we're going the good today.
Hello.
It was tough to find a good, but this one is pretty darn good. Siranzani Butao from Zimbabwe pulled 8 people out of a bus completely engulfed in flames. The picture of him on Facebook shows burns all over his body, and he saved the lives of 8 people on a burning bus. It's good enough for our good and then some. For the back of Eau Claire, Wisconsin, where David Lund was arrested on Christmas Day, car was being pulled over for a burned out taillight. That's when David jumped out of the car and started running on foot. He jumped into a bush and couldn't get out of the bush, stuck in bush. An officer pulled him free and found a bag containing 25 grams of blow.
You're really torn there as you're stuck. You really want this guy to get you out, but once he does, you're going to the popo.
Finally, the come back to Lee County, where Alexander Latore was a science teacher at Gulf Middle School, but he got into a nice little DUI when he ran through Corkscrew and 41 into Pelican Sound a couple of years ago, and he finally lost his teaching license because when he was arrested, he was asked if he's had anything to eat. He said, it's been a while besides LSD. And then he proceeded to tell the police that he was an 8th grade teacher buying LSD from his students and taking LSD with his students. Finally, from that investigation, it took 2 years, but he will never be allowed to teach again in the state of Florida.
Took 2 years.
Yeah, it took 2 years for that. I don't know if the ugly is his story or the fact that it took 2 years for them to revoke his teaching license.
Took 2 years. Wow.
And that is the good, the bad, and the trippy ugly today on December the 30th, 2021.
And yes, we are well aware of the Naples Zoo story, and it certainly could have made the good, bad, and ugly. But to be honest with you, the story angers the two of us so much that we're staying away from it. A good could have been, I don't know if we briefly mentioned it on air. I know we talked about it off air. Jeff Dickerson was the Bears,
we talked about it off air yesterday.
The Bears beat writer who died of cancer a couple days ago at age 44. His wife had succumbed to cancer 2 years earlier. They have an 11-year-old son. And pro sports teams and the major pro sports media have formed a GoFundMe page. And as of right now, they've raised over $600,000 for the 11-year-old going forward. And
which is fantastic for him, but obviously
right,
just a horrific story. Jeff had been on the show with us numerous times over the years.
Yep. Was somebody who was nice enough, despite his position, to never say no.
Right. Very much so.
And so, that is a good out there, trying to make something positive out of a staggering tragedy.
No doubt.
My goodness.
No doubt.
Miller and Moulton. Pat Kirwan next on the Florida Sports Network.
It's been a great start to the NFL season, and it's only getting better at DraftKings, the official daily fantasy partner of the NFL. DraftKings is putting new customers in the center of the action with a free shot at millions of dollars in total prizes. Get in on the action now. It's simple. Just pick your lineup, stay under the salary cap, and see how your team stacks up against the competition. Feel the NFL action like never before with a free shot at millions of dollars in total prizes. DraftKings is safe, secure, and reliable. And the best part is you can deposit and withdraw your cash whenever you want. Download the DraftKings app now and use code M&M. This week, new customers can get a free shot at millions of dollars in total prizes. Enter code M&M to get a free shot at millions in total prizes with your first deposit. That's code M&M. Only at DraftKings, the official daily fantasy partner of the NFL. Minimum $5 deposit required. Eligibility restrictions apply. See DraftKings.com for details.
You were listening to Miller and Moulton on the Florida Sports Network.
Oh, wow. David. I don't know who. So Matt Infante, whoever that is. Oh, he works for that Pro Football 365, tweeted out. And I don't follow him. Staley retweeted it. Happy anniversary, Dolphins fans. On this date, 21 years ago, the Dolphins won a playoff game. They have not won one since. They beat the Colts.
I was at that game.
Really?
I went to that game, then immediately drove back, got into my car and drove straight to Atlanta for Panic and for New Year's.
There you go. Why is Van Halen trending?
David Lee Roth's last shows in Vegas, maybe.
Mark, the text you sent me does not have Pat's number.
All right, hang on. Let me walk in and give it to you. All right. 2021, it's about to be a wrap.
You're listening to Miller and Moulton, exclusively on the Florida Sports Network.
And the home stretch of Miller and Moulton on this, our final show of 2021. Pat Kirwan, busy traveling to end 2021 and start 2022, is kind enough to join us fresh off a plane in Jersey. Pat, hope your travels went well. How are you?
I'm doing well, guys, and it's an honor to be on this show for the last show of the year. You guys are doing great. Happy for your new thing, so it's terrific. And, hey, we got a lot of good games again. It's amazing. 17 weeks, and I've been able to say there's 5 or 6 really good games every week, and I never thought they'd last this long, but they have.
Well, what game is it this week that you're most into? Because you said there's a bunch. So which one of you got your what's the game you got your eye on?
CBS, and we don't usually get all the good ones or some of the good ones, but that Kansas City and Cincinnati game, to me, there's a lot at stake for both of them. Kansas City's, they want to be the 1 seed no matter what. We got our friends in Cincinnati. I was with a bunch of Bengal fans yesterday, and they still don't believe in their team. They're so programmed to failure that I felt like I was trying to get them encouraged. And then when I was walking away, I said, oh, by the way, you've never won 3 in a row. And they just went right back to their depression. Love the game.
KC at Cincy. You've got Miami at Tennessee. You've got Vegas at Indianapolis. We don't know if Wentz is going to play for the Colts. We've got the Rams at the Ravens. We've got Arizona at Dallas. I mean, this is, Pat, never mind, Sunday night, Vikings, Packers, Browns, Steelers on Monday. I mean, for this late in the season, sometimes the final couple weeks schedule can be pretty bad if teams just turn out to not be very good. This is as sexy a slate as the NFL's had in the last 4-6 weeks.
Absolutely. And always intrigued by Tennessee. They're a team that I never feel like any of us give them full credit for how dangerous they are. The other day when we were talking, I went over everyone's record against teams that are playoff eligible right now, and they're 6-2 against them. So they've been standing the test of time against good football teams. I like the way they're coming from. They're buying time to get Derrick Henry back. So like them quite a bit. But it's really hard to fall in love with them when as you like to say, David, the sexiest picks, Kansas City, New England. Some people still will believe in those guys. Buffalo, there's a resurgence of Buffalo fans because they beat up there a little bit on New England. But no one ever wants to talk about Tennessee. They're a hard out. You better not be a team that plays lousy run defense in the playoffs because they'll roll you.
Well, just talk about their game against Miami, though, because there will be no Derrick Henry. A.J. Brown was back, but this Dolphin defense has been playing terrifically. They get after quarterbacks, and Tannehill, I think, leads the league. If he doesn't lead it, he's second in sacks allowed, and he's tied for the most interceptions. With the way the Dolphins' defense is played, that could be a pretty good recipe for Miami.
It could be, but I know the other day we discussed their 7-game winning streak, who they really played. You guys put the microscope on them. So they've played a lot of bad teams. This is a good team, especially in the trenches. We'll see if that defense is as good as, I've advertised them as pretty good, but this is a bigger test than they've really had in, 6 weeks. Maybe you could go all the way back to the Baltimore win. But ultimately, they don't play teams like this, and they're going to play them now. So we'll find out. And Tua, do I have more questions or more respect for Tua? I love the guy, but I have a lot of questions about his ability. Can he throw 2 deep balls and make me feel like this guy has range? Right now, I still don't think he has range. You're right, though, Mark, about Tannehill. Tannehill's numbers the last couple of weeks are pretty bad. I think he was like averaging like 154 yards passing. We're going to do a special with Brown on Sunday. Coach Cowher, I believe, is sitting down with him right now. So he is a very interesting guy. He catches 11 of the 16 targets last week. He was a one-man show, and they knew it, and they couldn't stop him. I've always wondered, this is right to both of you, I've always felt like, hey, if you can put Deebo Samuel at running back, why can't you put Brown at running back? That guy's a runaway train, physical, break tackles. I think it's time to get him a couple of shots in the backfield.
don't think it's the worst idea in the world. I'll say, I mean, you know, when they finally made the decision, who was it, Atlanta, to put Cordarrelle Patterson as a running back, I mean, he looks much better as a running back than he does as a wide receiver. Much better. I mean, I think you're right. I think some guys, and let's face it, they're just trying to get to the playoffs when they think they're going to get the big fella back. They're just trying to ham and egg it for 2 weeks and keep their seeding.
Yeah, and that's why if you look at Brown after the catch, I went through a lot of tape getting coach ready for this thing, and the more I watch him, to me, he's Anquan Bolden with speed. And I don't understand why you put him in the backfield. Right away, they're going to think, oh, you're just trying to get a matchup on our Mike Backer in a passing game. I'd hand him the ball and just see what would happen. I think there's something there with him. Anyway, I don't want to promote that more than it is because I don't think they're going to do it, but I would.
All right. Arizona and Dallas. Look at, I asked you a little bit about the Cowboys earlier this week, Pat, but Arizona's reeling going into this game. At some point, they're going to have to, if they don't pull off a win between now and the end of the regular season, Pat, I mean, there's going to be no confidence going into the postseason, but it's hard to even believe this team has the right makeup if they don't turn it around pretty soon. And I don't just mean for this year, Pat.
No, I think it's a fragile situation. The coach started the beginning of the season as on the bubble. Then he had this big run, and then all of a sudden he was the coach of the year. Kyler Murray was the player of the year, and now they're 3-5 in their last 8 games. And I would expect them to lose this one. So why does it happen? Who's the real rock solid veteran leader that can stop the bleeding and give this team the reconfidence, if you will, of getting back on track? To me, I think they're all struggling, and they look at each other. And there's no Aaron Rodgers in there, and there's no Brady in there, and there's no Big Ben in there. Like, say what you want about Ben, and he can't play much anymore, but he can still try to rally his troops. I don't think Arizona has that guy. Now, David, you might find one. Do they have one? I don't see it.
Okay. I don't know if he has any interest, but when Hopkins got hurt against the Packers, I really thought Arizona needed to call up Fitzgerald. I thought they needed to call him. They needed to think big picture. They needed to look forward. I think they're desperately missing Larry Fitzgerald right now. And the fact that J.J. Watt got hurt on the other side, they don't have anybody older than 28 who's ever really been there, done that in this league before on the team.
So there it is. You painted a better picture than me of what's missing and really the dire straits they're in and what could really happen to this thing at the end of it. The expectations were high, then the wins rose the expectations. Boy, now it's shaky ground, and they could be one and done in the playoffs.
Because think about it. I mean, and JJ's only been there an hour, so if he was healthy, maybe he wouldn't have been the voice, even though he's universally respected. But, Fitz could look at these guys and go, guys, I was here 13 years ago. We had the same type of regular season, to be brutally honest. We staggered into the playoffs as a 4 seed. We were an underdog at home in our first round playoff game. And we were 1 play away from winning the Super Bowl. Okay. Trust me, this team's better than that one. Been here, done this before. Let's just keep pounding on the door. Trust me, we're going to be okay. They don't have that guy.
That's right. And that, I think the 3 of us will share the opinion that they're just floundering, and I don't know that they can get out of it. And Dallas, we kind of like what Dallas has on the pass rush group. I mean, that thing is in waves now. Dan Quinn has got them playing well. Prescott, hey, he's a good player. He's had a couple of mediocre weeks, and everyone panics. I think they're going to be fine. I think this will be just another win that strengthens their position about how good they are. I don't think they can win a Super Bowl, but who am I to guess on that yet?
Mark,
I don't feel like getting the Dallas fans crazy yet.
I will leave you with this, though, Mark. Kyler Murray's returning to where it is he grew up and he played his high school ball. And Kyler Murray's only game at Jarrah's place, he flat out tore it up. I would be very surprised if Kyler doesn't have a big game Sunday.
Well, to me, it's one of those things that if somehow Arizona goes into Dallas and wins that football game, we're going to have a whole different philosophy because we live week to week in this world about the Arizona Cardinals than we did right now. Same thing I'm going to say to you, Pat, as I get into this. It looks as we got a chance Lamar's going to play this week, back to practicing. They've got the Rams. The Ravens are absolutely reeling right now. They went from leading the division to not being in the postseason. So if Lamar is playing, what type of shot do you give him against the Rams?
Not very much. First off, I watched the practice tape that we were able to see yesterday. He's limping around. He's not 100%. And if that guy can't run, nobody fears him. Lamar, the pocket passer, nothing to worry about. The biggest problem they have is their secondary, their pass defense. Stafford and those receivers, those guys still have things to play for. I think Baltimore is a great example of what a wounded team can look like. They're a good football team. They don't have enough of their good players. I would not take them. Be interested to know what you guys think of them. I used to love Baltimore, and there's great tradition. I love the coach. I love the way the whole operation operates there, but I don't see them having enough firepower to take on the Rams.
Well, in the fourth quarter of the Packers game, they literally had a guy off the street at right tackle, and they had two guys off the street in the starting secondary. I mean, that's how bad things are right now. There's a reason Joe Burrow threw for 525 last week.
Correct.
I mean, now, granted, he's a terrific quarterback, and they've got three terrific receivers. But, I mean, they are literally playing with guys off the street. But on the other side of it, Pat, the Rams had their moment in this season in which they didn't look real good. And they even came off a bye week and got whacked in Green Bay and looked worse than they did before the bye. What's changed from what you've seen with the Rams?
Run defense. Go look at the last month or so of run defense. They're holding guys to around 78 yards a game. That's the first thing I think. They got tougher again. They got back into that, winning in the trenches. So run defense is the first thing I would think. They have, with an array of backs, tried to run the ball better. They're getting Whitworth back. So in a lot of ways, as you described that, David, it felt like, Kansas City had the same little bump in the road for a few weeks, and they righted their ship. Sean McVay has taken a team to a Super Bowl, and he's got a lot of good players that have pride, that have real history to them. So Aaron Donald and the guys shaped up the run defense, and that to me is the foundation for why they're better. Look, everyone who knows Stafford says, a great thrower of the football. Always blame the Detroit Lions for his woes. The second he plays bad and throws 3 interceptions, people are on my show going, there's the Detroit quarterback we're used to seeing. So he's still, in a sense, unproven. He was only brought there for one thing, to win a Super Bowl. They could get to a Super Bowl without him. They just couldn't win one without him. So he's got a lot of pressure on him. But I think in August we talked about Stafford might have the most pressure on him of any player in the league.
And so far, albeit a little hiccup for a couple of games, he's delivered. We'll see what he can do in January, because that's what it's all about. Pat, we know you talked about it on our show many times about going to Orlando and working with the EA Sports guys on the Madden game. I'm curious if you have any actual personal Madden stories. You've been around the league your whole life, basically, Pat, and I know you had some interactions with him. But the passing of John Madden, what his influence was on the game, and just your thoughts on the guy.
Because of the EA game and because of what he wanted from the game, it was an honor that they called me and offered me the opportunity to work on 2 versions of the game. So I got there and I said, well, really, why'd you call me? And the one guy said, we read your book. We think you know what you're doing. But 2, John has been after us to bring in people like you that can keep driving this game towards reality. And that the more this game looked like real football, the happier John is. And so those were my relations professionally. And I remember saying to him, I will do everything I can to help with what you say the mission of this game is. And but yesterday I had a lot of people on that knew John. Wayne Fiddleman, who I work with at CBS, we've been sharing a spot together. He's in research, and he traveled with John for 10 years. And to listen to him talk about John on the bus and the bus coming to town and how he would stop and talk to anybody and everybody. Paul Alexander, have on our show all the time, was out somewhere, some vacation place where John had a house, and Paul didn't know it. And Paul said to this guy who was raking the guy's yard, I said, "Hey, that's a beautiful yellow house. Who owns it?" He said, "John Madden." So Paul lands up in a situation where he's going to see John Madden at some event, and he said, "Hey, I saw your house. I think it was in Mexico. It's beautiful." So John said, "Call me anytime you want. You come out and stay with us. You'll have a great time." So a year later, Paul calls John Madden and says, "Hey, I'm in town." John says, "You know what? We're not. But here, I'm going to set you up with a couple things. I wish I was there with you." He lands up sending Paul and his wife and his two friends on a big cruise ship in the harbor for dinner, and then about 4 different places he sends them to. And Paul said, "I really never thought he was going to invite me to his house, and I never thought he was going to do anything." But he said that's how he was, and then they became friends. Pete Carroll told me that when Pete did that whole video series on how to tackle safely, head behind, all the radical stuff that people didn't know or want to believe, all from rugby, John called him and said, "Pete, we don't know each other that well, but all I ever wanted to do is make this game safer." And I think a lot of it came from Darryl Stingley. He said, "And you have done a gigantic favor to the National Football League." So he went out of his way in very little spots to take care of what he thought people were doing to protect the game or coach the game. So I love all that part of it. And Wayne did say to me he was hard on his crew. And David probably knows all this, but he wanted them to know football, understand football, and then broadcast football. And Wayne, as I said, sat right next to him for 10 years, and he didn't have a lot of patience for people that were trying to do fluff and not ball. So those are just simple things I could share with you listeners.
Pat, we talked about it yesterday. I obviously was never a part of one, but I've heard the stories. 4 to 6 hour production meetings. He wanted every single person who was going to be involved in the game to know what it is both teams were trying to do. He thought if the camera people had an idea of what the teams were going to do, they would shoot better pictures and et cetera, et cetera. And there's even stories of Madden sitting in hotel lobbies, okay, as kind of like dad on the family vacation, keeping track of who's coming in late, okay, who may not be 100% for the game the next day.
Those stories are true, to my knowledge. A young guy called the show, a listener called and said, "Hey, I'm so excited." He goes, "I've never called your show, but you were talking about Madden." He goes, "I was 14 years old. I was in a hotel in California. I came down the elevator. When the door opened, John Madden was there. And I was a Raider fan. And I was just a kid. I just said, 'Coach, I'm your biggest fan.' And then Madden said, 'Hey, well, if you are, you need to wear my Super Bowl ring for a while. Why don't you put it on and walk around?'" So things like that, I think, are really interesting and fun to hear about a guy. So here's the last thing I'll say to you. So we ran a little contest yesterday. How should the NFL honor, and I'm sure you guys are doing it as well, how should you honor, how high should the honor be from the NFL for John Madden? And I asked Howie Long that question, and he didn't have an answer, but he was going to get back to me. And he said, the reason I don't have an answer is I don't know if I have in my mind yet something big enough. Well, Jimmy Miller had one, and the phones rang off the hook. Jimmy Miller said, starting this year, it should be called the John Madden Football Hall of Fame, Canton, Ohio.
We didn't go that far, and we're a little pressed for time. But, Pat, what we came up with was instead of you being all-pro or a Pro Bowler, that we should rename it and you're all Madden.
Yes, I love that. That was Wayne Fiddleman thought something in. He said revive the all Madden thing because that was a great honor. So anyway, it's fun to hear how many people totally get what John did for football.
Pat, we totally get what you do for us. We appreciate your professional relationship, but also our friendship. Have a great New Year's holiday. We got a big weekend of work ahead of you, and we'll talk again next week.
And we lost last night 4-3. I'll see you guys.
That's the daily Everblades update from
It's the only one we get anymore.
Yep. That's it. Yep. We lost.
We
last
lost.
night, right.
We.
Works for the NFL, worked for the Jets for a long time.
Mhm.
The only time he goes we is when
with the Everblades.
Right.
That's it.
Right. Oh, man. That's great. Miller and Moulton. So you're going
Michigan.
I'm going all SEC title game, Georgia close. And that's why we'll have major change in Indianapolis in a week and a half. Happy New Year, everyone.
The Firestone Grand Prix of St. Petersburg, presented by RP Funding, roars through the streets of beautiful downtown St. Petersburg, February 25th to the 27th. Day tickets are on sale now at gpstpete.com. It's fast, fun, family entertainment jam-packed into 3 days.